No swearing. 1.
Welcome to episode 140 of Plat Chat VALORANT. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things today. The LCQs have started. EMEA Ascension wrapped up, and we didn't have a chance to talk about it previously. I'm joined by Bren, who's wearing the same outfit as me because we're matching. It's so cute. It's so cute.
We planned
And then
it.
we've got Mimi here too, and also adding more Pacific guests to the Plat Chat cinematic universe. We have Chobra. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, later on we've got TMV to discuss EMEA stuff as well, but Chobra, you're coming fresh off the Pacific LCQ casts with some absolute bangers last night, and it's also midnight your time. Thanks so much for coming by.
I mean, yeah, I'm happy to do so. I wasn't expecting the whole 40-round fiasco from ZETA and RQ, but here I am with my voice still intact, so that's good.
Yeah. Before we get into the talking the Pacific stuff, though, I did want to discuss what Bren has been going through in the last 12 hours, because we were all here for America's LCQ. We're all in Los Angeles, and now people scattered. I mean, Mimi has gone back. Bren's gone back. You're going to need to be back here in
2 days.
48 hours.
I fly tomorrow.
Yeah. Like very soon.
That's
very
terrible.
soon. But I haven't been back here in 2 months. Since fucking I swore.
What?
Bren, you're so bad, man. You're so bad at that.
No.
It's a different person every time.
I'm sorry.
I mean, thankfully, this episode is sponsored by FreezePipe. We'll tell you about them later. But for now, Bren, continue with the...
This is the current mental state that I'm on. I get back. I haven't been back here in 2 months, right? My apartment, I'm expecting to walk into just DEFCON 5. Just everything's going wrong. And everything did go wrong. I walk in, all the power's tripped. My laundry unit, when I tried to do laundry when I got in, it flooded my apartment, so I had to clean that up. That was dope. That was awesome to deal with. The whole thing was a mess because I haven't been here in 2 months, so I was cleaning the entire time. I had to watch BBL Karmine Corp at the same time. That genuinely...
I'm so sorry.
I think I would rather be lobotomized than witness that game again. No offense if you're a fan of those teams, but it was atrocious gameplay, which we're probably going to discuss it next episode. I don't want to talk about it this episode. We're going to talk about it next episode. But I was watching that at the same time. That wasn't really doing me any favors. So I was cleaning the whole time. And overnight, my PC just short-circuited. The heat wave, the Texas power grid is so... I can't swear. The Texas power grid is so bad that my PC short-circuited and everything broke. I don't know what happened. One of the ports in my graphics card is broken. My RAM's broke. I had to underclock my RAM. It didn't boot after 3 attempts. And this morning, all I wanted to do was get up this morning, start getting the VOD dungeon early, prep for this episode, watch the games, and instead I had to troubleshoot my PC. The animals are leaving us. The aliens aren't contacting us. I have been losing my hair.
God did not intend for anyone to live in Texas. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a mistake to begin with.
Texas was one large error.
We have to rectify.
All right, well, now that we've all got it settled, we can actually talk about some Pacific LCQ. So the first game that I wanted to talk about was the hot take from Arton last week was that RRQ Global was the real grand final. He went so far as to say that, I think he said whichever team wins that is going to win the entire thing.
Yes, which, by the way, I was actually shocked you all thought that was such a hot take. Because I was... Until watching that match, I was in the same boat.
Do you completely agree with it, that you thought that Global RRQ was the actual grand final, the top 2 teams?
Well, I was much more confident in RRQ. I rated RRQ just as highly as he did, as Mala did. I personally did not have as high hopium for Global, but potential-wise, I thought that could very well be the early grand final for LCQ Pacific. Now that it's happened, we know that clearly that was not the case, but I thought the potential was there. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a couple of fairly close games.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, here's why. So I think the RQ thing, I think Bala made his argument, and I generally agree with most of the points. I think it just sounds like maybe Bala and I also seem to prefer the same style of Valorant, right, from a lot of the pro teams and the same ideas. So I'll leave that at that. And the way I saw it, I guess one thing I'll add for RQ is I just felt their biggest weakness was again, like, you're just calming things down. I felt like the ideas were always good. It's just, they would get antsy and the comms would break down, etc., which obviously they're not, that's not minor. It's a very big thing to fix, but it's also a very feasible thing to fix. It's not like you have to change your entire way of thinking about the match. On the side of global, I'm not so much sold on the ideas they had, but honestly, I thought the general fragging power of that team, if anything, I would actually kind of rate it higher than RQ in terms of what they've shown during the regular season. And then, honestly, I hate to put him on the spot, but it was really just like, is SK Rossi going to be consistent enough to pull off one person's worth on every single map?
No.
The answer was no. Yes.
To the utter dismay of every YouTube commenter in every game except the global game, SK Rossi was not the GOAT in this
Dude, the
matchup.
Indian fans are brutal, man. They've turned against him. I don't know if you guys
already?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, they were talking about him being the
goat
GOAT in YouTube chat like 2 days ago.
Yeah, a while ago they turned against him, like just a couple of bad performances. But I don't know. The global esports experiment, they are as Sentinels that they're going to run into when they're trying to rebuild, and that's that. In all reality, they probably shouldn't try to stick with 10s, but they're going to try and stick with 10s. And I think global esports might run with the same shit where they're like, we got to run with SK Rossi because it's global esports. It's hello India. Why can't you have SK Rossi? But SK Rossi, he wasn't up to scratch, man. If you're playing him on Jet over players like Texture and forcing Texture to play Killjoy over the course of the season, you're cooked. You've lost the season, bro. I mean, global esports, they had a ton of close results over the course of the season. They were like one of the best teams that ended up losing some of the most matches in Pacific, like easily. Early on, they were losing to DRX and whoever else, I can't even remember, but they had tons of close losses to those teams that could have made a significant difference. But they were just, it was an interesting experiment what they had, because I'm going to be honest, there wasn't really anything else like it. Where
I think they did well. Like, I feel like you have to take things all the way back to people's expectations when they put together a roster like this. With Aaron, that's never been like a primary IGL, I think he did very well. Monyet wasn't known as being a smokes player. He looked great. You've got players in there that, like, I think everyone's still got faith that if Texture went back to playing primary duelist, that he would perform. They had pieces that worked, and their actual results, not that bad. Like, what?
No.
Did they go 3-6 or something in the regular season?
They could have done
That's
much
not that bad.
But the thing is, they were also like, this was, I think, like the season of learning for global, where it was like the first, like, most, like a lot of the group stage throughout Pacific, they were still like figuring out their roster. We want to have like 50 million people on here. We're figuring out how to do that. We're sorting through visa issues. Like, there was a ton of stuff they went up against. And I think you did see the clear improvement there throughout the regular season. It's just like, LCQ's brutal, and if they had pulled off that game over RQ, I think we would be spinning a different story. But that's not to say that they didn't, play somewhat poorly versus RQ in this one. I think that a lot of RQ's like style, particularly on split, was like pretty simple with the double duels. We're just going for hard executes, and I feel like GE fell into some of the issues they did before, where when they get under pressure, people just like try and make hero plays. One guy's going to try and side anchor against two guys double diving in and get ran over. On their attacking side as well, RQ was just playing a lot of flood retakes, and one person from global would like want to get in a proactive position, just get ran over by the retake. Like, it's just little mistakes like that I think are still showing me that like this team does not have the coordination they need to be a top squad in Pacific, but we have seen the stars there, and I think there is still potential. And you can see this is not really like obviously what they wanted, but just hearkening back to the thoughts and the expectations at the very beginning of the season, this isn't awful for them. I mean, it was a reasonably close game versus RQ in both maps.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Again, compared to the expectations, and again, it's just the first year. Like you said, I'm glad you brought up the whole, visa situation, because obviously not having your, 2-star players or two main players that you're trying to play as duelists being on site for the first couple of weeks is rough. So that all said, I do think, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because I know we're talking about a couple of the other matches for Pacific as well, but to me, I see the same problem in Rossi that I see in Meteor, except Meteor gets away with it because he puts up numbers, but the style that he does, the errors that he makes are still bad, right? So whenever things go from bad to worse, they feel that they have to make the hero plays because that's what they used to do on their previous teams. That's how they used to carry their previous teams. But now you're up against better competition, and also the rest of your team isn't playing that way, right? They're not playing to rely on your hero plays to get the kills, to go for trades. You're always so much further out. Literally, and this is much more of a style thing. It's not even about like, listen, if your aim's bad, like literally just hang back. And the rest of the team is now focused on using your utility, but he just feels the need. And you could see it. Yes. And if you watch this game against RQ, whenever the observer starts to switch to SK Rossi, like past basically halftime of the first map, like his aim is shaking nonstop. It's as if he somehow like turned his DPI up to 5,000 and he couldn't handle it because it's just shaking everywhere. And you just need to tell him it's okay to not get kills. Like, that's okay. The entry doesn't always have to be the top fragger. It would be great if that was true, but that's not your role on this style of team. And if they're gonna keep Rossi, I think they need to figure out how they can drill that into him in terms of that's not the style we're going for, especially if Aaron also stays as the IGL.
If I had to speculate, I would say that probably they've wanted to stick to SK Rossi on Jet, right? I don't think he's literally played a single other agent. He played a bit of Silver in Lock-In, but
but not in Pacific.
During Pacific, literally the only player that's played only one agent for the entire time, which is incredible.
Yeah. Found that one out in the, what was it?
During the Jeopardy game where Spades threw that one at us. But he carried it on again here, despite the fact that the team had made other changes, right? They put Texture on the secondary duelist on both maps, playing Raze and then playing Phoenix, and put Bazzi back over to Killjoy, which addressed some level of the issue. But here's my speculation, that I think with SK Rossi having problems throughout the season whenever he went up against a team that was better, I would imagine the team diagnosed it as a confidence issue of being like, you just need to believe that you're better and that you are going to be able to perform in these kind of situations, and just hyped him up, and he just went out there and fed even harder. Because I think it might have just been a misdiagnosis in terms of how to improve him, because to me he doesn't have the awareness and the situational intelligence to avoid getting punished in these games because he lacks experience. When he's been playing his entire career, the whole way that he's come up in Valorant, he's just been able to run around and destroy his opponents, doing whatever he likes by outplaying them. He's been so significantly better than everyone that he's played against. He's come into Pacific, the level of play is so much higher, and now you need to be really aware of how you can get punished, and you need to dodge those punishes. Now, whatever it is, maybe that's I can't peek this angle because it's likely that they're double facing. It might be, I can't go forwards here because the recon dart's going to scan me. It might be that I can't go for this aggressive swing. I have to be jiggling the angle. There's just myriad things that you need to adjust the higher and higher the level of play goes up. And when I watch him, he's just kind of barreling forwards. And it does feel very it's such a good comparison because it does feel Tens-esque on Duelist, where he's just kind of doesn't have the experience at the top level as being an entry player and ends up kind of throwing his life away far too often and failing on those first duels.
Here's the thing. I think the solution is simple. 5 a.m. showers, Leviatan style. Get owner in the mix. You wake this guy up early every day. Cold shower. Put him in scrims. A coach is sitting over his shoulder every time. Any overpeak, any little mistake, they say wrong. They yell at him. He has to wake up an hour earlier the next day. After that, chicken, rice. Nothing more, nothing less. The only meal allowed. 8-hour scrim blocks.
Vitamins,
Get
no
off.
nutrients.
VOD review. No vitamins, no nutrients. No family, no girlfriend, no phone. Go to sleep, wake up. 4 a.m. shower because you overpeaked in a scrim. Go back. The next day, you're back at it again. Same thing. Any mistake, an hour earlier. Another dish of chicken. Until he's fixed, that's all you can do.
The worst part about this whole thing is I actually think that could work.
I mean, sincerely, yes. I think if you just really focus on building structure into the team and giving him a set role and Taco Leaing him a little bit, and then kind of going too extreme one way and then finding about Hold up. You got to put him in Taco prison, and then you have to slowly let him back out. He has to re-earn his freedom, and then you find a balance of style that works for you, and you become the best team in Pacific.
I absolutely hate that idea, but it's so funny. I mean, what happens if he keeps making mistakes and it has to be an hour earlier to the point where he's just waking up at the same time but 24 hours early?
It is what it is.
Okay,
it is what it is.
Let's move on. We're going to talk about RRQ in a bit when they played their next game, but I do want to touch on the other big match that happened today, which was, because it was a little cleaner, I think, which was Team Secret just absolutely dominating Gen.G. And Gen.G scraped through Talon. I'm not really sure what to think about Talon. you know, their opening game was against DFM, and DFM are the only team actually. It feels okay. Let me start here. It feels like there is a magical spell that has been cast over LCQ, where every player that was bad has become good, and every team that was bad has found some form and got on a run, and yet poor DFM just didn't get a sip of the magic juice.
No, and they woke up too late for that spell to be cast on them. And they just missed the notice.
5 a.m.
Yeah, they missed the notice. They didn't get it, did they? It does feel bad for them.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't think we really need to recap the Talon DFM game necessarily. But Gen.G snuck by Talon, and then Secret absolutely bodied them. And we were having this discussion, Chobra, before about the other people on the podcast were roasting me for picking Team Secret because they said that was you're just picking the favorite, despite the fact that Gen.G have beaten Secret before and gone further than them in the most recent playoffs. Right. Not that Gen.G looked amazing; they didn't at all towards the end of the season. But how do you classify Gen.G? Do you just consider them to be a weak team at this point, or an underperforming team? Are you disappointed anymore in what they're doing?
Well, no, I'm like past the disappointment stage because I've accepted that I think they're bad.
Right.
But here's the thing. I think and this is happening to basically every Korean squad except for T1, which is not what a lot of people would have expected at the beginning of the year, is that the individual players aren't all bad. Maybe some of them on certain teams, but like they're not all bad. But clearly for Gen.G, it's very clear that as soon as they start losing, their comms break down, just from like their cameras, their timeouts, and then, you know, just watching back the VOD, you know, kind of looking at the player cams and things like that. Their comms break down. They start to all peak out individually, and then not all of them are always popping off. I mean, even Meteor, sure, he does today, you know, even when they're losing. But, you know, during the regular season, he's had some rough maps as well when they went on that losing streak. And to me, I look at it, and I look at TS as you have to be the one who can pull that together as the IGL, right? And I used to really like TS's IGLing within Korea because he was actually one of the IGLs who was better at mid-rounding, which Korea lacked for the longest time. But if you can't find a way to reel in these guys who all tilt so easily, right? Meteor tilts like off the face of the earth if he can't start getting frags against other duelists. Goddead, right? He's like, you know, he plays a somewhat higher sense. He's a streamer, right? He likes to make these hero plays. As soon as it doesn't work, he starts going for more every time. King, we've seen him in comms just absolutely roast his own teammates and trying to get them to get better because he's always top fragging. And you as IGL, you need to just make that all go away. You need to make that chill out and focus on the round that's about to come. And I think that's their biggest problem. I mean, when they're left to their own devices, individually, they're good. I mean, we've seen it work out. I mean, I even think their performance at Lock-In was pretty promising against Loud, you know,
yeah,
assuming, of course, at that time, Loud was playing quite well as well. So it's just that the recipe is there, but their losing streak got worse and worse, and then even their playoff run was really off of heroics, right? It wasn't that,
and it was also one win. They'd still only went 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. They basically survived the lower bracket. Like they extended their life one more turn. So I mean, even their win against Talon, I mean, I personally, you know, I was actually kind of hoping to see Talon do even better. And I think the only reason Gen.G won was because Talon had even less discipline, right? It wasn't more so. It's not like Gen.G had better ideas in my head. I actually think Talon maybe came up with better ideas during the break. And to me, this is one of those situations, and maybe this might sound like an exaggeration, but this seems like one of those Korean rosters where you just have to blow it up, right? It's not any one player's fault, but I don't think this chemistry among these players are working out the way, like even Goddead and Meteor, which was the duo that really led them to shine in the first couple of weeks. They're not timing their util and peaks together anymore either. And if your main flasher and your duelist, which are your star players, are not doing that, then something's breaking down in the comms.
I think with Gen.G, they have too many ideas. Is that silly to say? Because I'm watching them, I think that they prep a ton. Like their Pearl game is a perfect example of this when they played against Talon. Because I was watching that and I was like, okay, they have tons of really cool ideas when they're playing this Gecko KO comp on the defense side. Yes. And they were going on an absolute tear because their defaults were really well thought out. They had trap plays off of turrets. They had really cool looks. And then it switches to the other side and they looked lost. And it reminds me of teams that just clearly put all of their preparation to one side of one map, and their ideas don't really come to fruition. But it was just little things like they would use a KO knife to clear, the pillar on B, on Pearl. And if that knife gets broken, you know that they've got a setup there. And yet they would still choose to fight it without any utility. And it's the adaptability. It's like making decisions like that in the moment where, you know, it's funny as well, Trober, because you were saying like TS used to be one of the best mid-rounders, and that adaptability used to be, you know, something that was really missing. But I don't see it with Gen.G. I think that they get lost in their game plans a little bit too much. Kind of like EG early on in the regular season in Americas, where they were like heavily set on their game plans, their structure, and then they would forget how to play in the moment when shit went weird. And this is evidence. Another example that you're seeing exactly in this clip, I mean, this wasn't intentional that's been pulled up, but I'm glad you did, is that when the going gets rough for them, this is after losing many rounds in a row.
No,
now,
Brent, I'm a genius.
You are a genius, Kurt. but the Meteor Op, they force the attacking Meteor Op a lot when stuff goes wrong, and that's usually their answer for it. It's like, okay, well, Meteor, go find.
That's not a game plan, really.
It's not a game plan.
Like,
no, and it's not
unless they've got specific ideas of how they want to set it up. It's just a let's do something different to try and make. To try and win a few rounds.
And I am curious if part of that, obviously sometimes, right, you see the duelists call for that action, and if it goes well, it's great, right? You want proactive duelists, and I have to wonder, obviously we won't know, we can't know for sure until maybe they release a comms video that showcases that exact moment. But sometimes I wonder if it's Meteor just saying like, I can do this, give me that chance, right? I'll go get this peak, I'll go get the 1v1. But whatever it is, I do agree they have to identify it, and I'm glad you mentioned the whole lack of mid-rounding, whatever TS's past used to look like, because the times they did win in early on, and Fracture mainly comes to mind because they played this Fracture comp that was all about all these agents that had just utility on cooldown and refreshes, right? Like you had the Omen smokes, you have 2 of them that comes off of cooldown, you have the Sky Guiding Lights, things like that, and they would just run on a timer, and you would just send out utility until you won the war of attrition, because you would still have utility left, and you would get that info and just keep them at bay. So as soon as teams figured out that, oh, like we just draw out the first piece and then we just barrel through off of the cooldown, they wouldn't learn how to adapt. So they, for some reason, they went to this very old, I hate to say this for Korean squads because I feel like this really puts them into a stereotype, a very old DRX style of play, where you're just saying, okay, like 1 minute 20, you send this skill, and then 1 minute 10, you send this skill. 1 minute, you send the Trailblazer.
It's true though.
Yeah.
DRX was the worst thing that happened to Korea, like as a region. Like unironically, DRX having success with their heavy exec play style set the standard and the blueprint that other teams just copied. And I think it was one of the worst things that's ever happened to it as a region, because now you have teams that are really struggling with that adaptation.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I mean, I don't think it's a crazy take, but also I think that it ignores the fact that Korean Counter-Strike was like that even before DRX had success in Valorant.
Yeah.
It was extraordinarily prep heavy.
You're talking
strat heavy.
Glow and fucking and
Same
Wow.
guy.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's what I
these are all the same
wanted to
players,
ask,
right? That's why
yeah.
they're playing like that.
Because Chobra, do you think that it's like a symptom of Korean Valorant? Because to me, I'm looking at outside and I see so many similarities between like Gen.G and DRX, where it's just like, it seems like Coach is like watching back the VODs and only focusing on, okay, we need to fix this utility timing, the way we're doing this execute. Like, it seems very much, I think that comparison to early EG is apt, where it's like kind of like running before you can walk, focusing on like the strats you can drill before like the fundamentals seem perfect. And then when the fundamentals slip, it almost seems like they're kind of misdiagnosing the issue and it almost snowballs. It seems like very similar, honestly, between Gen.G and DRX. Like, do you think that's fair, or do you think there is like a big difference?
No, I mean, I think the execution of it, right, and the comps and whatnot were different, but I think the idea is the same. And to me, it's not a Valorant thing, and it's actually a very cultural thing, right? So I used to say this back in League of Legends as well. Korea used to always have this problem of, if someone else figures out the meta, we'll perfect it. But as soon as some team in Europe does something crazy, we don't know how to react. So it was only the European teams that could always take games off of Korea until Faker showed up. And then the reason Faker was so good was because he was playing off the book, right? He didn't play by the rules. He would just say, hey, I want to pick Riven in mid, and no one's ever done it before. I did it in one scrim and it worked out, so I'm gonna do it. Or he did it in solo queue, and his head coach was like, sure, let's go with it. That was why that whole duo of Coach Koma and Faker was so good, and they ruled for so long, because they decided to start leading the pack instead of following and perfecting it. And in Korea, I've seen lectures of like even architects being like, I'm so sad for Korean architecture because we could be so much better, but we're always so focused on copying someone else and just perfecting that, and then we don't know how to get creative ideas ourselves. And I've seen it when I used to play music, right? I used to focus on trying to major in music and violin. Same thing. You go to these international competitions, you see all these Koreans that make it to the final like 10, final 5 because what they can practice, known values are so good, right? They tell you like just practice the scale like every day. They do that and they perfect the actual mechanics, but once they have to perform in front of people and capture their hearts, they can't do that. And this is such a cultural thing of just taking the known value and then perfecting it, because in Korea, if you're not number 1, you're forgotten. And within this competition of culture where everyone works off of known values, that's the best way to do it, is just to grind it longer and further, right? And that's how you become number 1. But the worst part is in League of Legends, it kind of works, right? Because that game is built on numbers. And same thing with StarCraft, right? These are games where you take a unit and you know exactly how much damage it's going to do. But Valorant, it's like,
listen,
I don't know.
Everyone's got a game plan, so you get shot in the head. I'm telling you, Baby Bay said it. I've been saying it.
Yeah.
It's
Jeremy
a different
swings and
game.
gets 5 kills in 5 seconds. What are you going to do against that? You don't have a
that was
plan.
crazy.
Yeah.
like that's what happens in an FPS.
I want to follow up with that though, because I feel like one of my big things with DRX when we've been talking about it is looking at the coaching structure, because from my understanding, a lot of the Korean teams are very hierarchical with the like coach down kind of model. A lot of the other teams in like North America and stuff, the IGL is running the team a lot of the time and the coach is assisting them and trying to empower them. And from my understanding, it works slightly differently in Korea. But what I thought was interesting about this is that you have Elmer Putty as the head coach of Gen.G. That's not, it shouldn't be, perhaps, the conventional, like you're saying, cultural Korean issue where this is the way for. I mean, in some sense, Elmer has like a different viewpoint that he could be able to bring to the table and change things. But I don't know anything about him, and all I can judge him based on is how Gen.G are currently playing, and it doesn't look great. So, yeah, I was wondering if you had any insight there.
No, quite frankly, actually, the Gen.G coaching structure, I don't have much insight on. Although I will say I was surprised in, not today's match, obviously, but the match yesterday that Gen.G won against Talon, where Sylvan in the interview confirmed that it was Elma Putty that suggested they go back to their original roles of Sylvan on Smokes and TS on Initiator.
And that's a weird one, too.
Really? Because all of us on the Pacific caster side, we were like, that's probably just better because just off of like old habits, you're going to play better. But quite frankly, we also rated Sylvan very highly and he hasn't been performing up to that expectation. But to me, I mean, it is interesting that that came from Elma Putty, because I can only imagine, obviously because of language and everything, if Bile is the one stage coaching, then the micromanagement of tactics and, you know, strats and all that is probably still mostly coming through Bile. You know, obviously, I'm sure within some form of discussion with Elma Putty. So that's, again, I think for that, I'm in the same boat. It's all
just
speculation.
A weird system.
Yeah,
it's a very strange system, isn't it? But yeah, I guess that happens when they're one of the few Pacific teams. I mean, the Pacific teams kind of seem like 50-50 in terms of their English compared to being like full Korean speaking or full Japanese speaking or something like that. There's about half that are open to almost everybody else in the world having, you know, you could, if you wanted to, import a coach from wherever and add a different input, but it's slightly more difficult for the other teams. Yeah. I want to move us on, though, and talk about Secret, because they were my pick to win LCQ, and I've been really impressed with what they're showing, and also did not expect to see this much Raze being played in the tournament on maps like Haven, for example, where Jeremy was pulling it out, and this seems to be a bit of a theme of LCQ of getting more Raze involved compared to the Jet, even on some maps where you would expect it to be Jet only. I like what they're doing. I feel like Envy, Jeremy have really added a ton to the team. They're clean. It was a simple victory. I liked what I saw. I mean, everything looking good right now for Team Secret to win LCQ, in my opinion. They're the team that's impressed me the most so far.
That's how I felt about them early in. Was it early in the regular season when they were looking like similar in form?
Yes.
Am I thinking that correctly? Yeah. And I remember watching the games and I was like, yeah, I think they are currently leading out of all the teams. Like outside of the big, you know, you've got, you know, DRX at the top and PaperX at the time at the top.
Well, I mean, PaperX were doing a bit of trolling
at the time. They were trolling at the time, yeah, because they were messing around with their roster. But, you know, the big dogs, I was like, out of all like the middle of the pack teams, when I was thinking about Pacific, I thought that they were up there. And then it kind of fell off a little bit. But yeah, it's, they've all, they're another team, by the way, that's coached by what's his name? Warbirds.
Warbirds. Yeah, he
Warbirds.
used to
Yep.
coach Renegades in North America
Yeah.
for a long while.
Yep.
So like that, and that now I'm actually seeing the influence of having a foreign coach outside of it. Whereas I thought you would get that from Gen.G. I remember when we were talking about Gen.G when they were being built all the way at the beginning of the year, I thought that was going to be a factor, but it hasn't been. But with Team Secret, I think you can actually see it almost in their play. It's not, I don't know. They have good reactions. I mean, they have good calls individually. They play quite well. They make very cool in the moment plays and decisions and calls that throw teams that are incredibly structured off guard a lot. They look good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Team Secret's thing is just like, they're like, besides the times where they were bad, like right now to me, watching some of their games, like they just feel like just like a really good, just like even gatekeeper team. They play mostly the normal comps. I think their fundamentals are really good. Their reactions are generally good. They have a star who can pop off at times. Like Jeremy had a crazy game versus Gen.G. That like Ray's clip was ridiculous on Haven, and he plays well on the Killjoy too. Like I think they're just fundamentally a solid team and do a really good job of kind of just taking enough risks. I feel like a lot of the teams that aren't as structured in Pacific, that don't really have that like problem that we were just talking about with the Korean teams of going like way too hard into the structure and the stretch, will go too far into taking risks and going crazy. And I feel like this team does a really good job of balancing that. And yeah, I mean, I think right now, I would be honestly surprised if they don't end up winning LCQ.
Yeah, I mean,
The team that they're... Oh, sorry. Go on, Joe.
yeah, it's just personally for me, and I know a lot of Team Secret fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I can't escape it, is simply, again, they did this at the beginning of the season as well, where they showed that they got a little bit more discipline, that the trades were there, and then as soon as they were challenged by someone else, it fell apart for a couple weeks, right, for a couple matches. And I'm curious, was the 2 months enough to make sure that even when they're pushed, they can still regain that composure? Because if they can, what they showed today was absolutely promising. I would agree with everything you said, but I just wonder, right? I mean, is dubstep not gonna ever, overreach when they can't afford it? Is Jeremy always gonna be, consistent enough? He doesn't have to have super plays like he did today, but there have been certain games where we just like never mentioned Jeremy because he started getting very shaky and he had to get bailed out by, Envy like barely, or maybe not even towards a win. And, I chalked that up to them, just having to get more experience, right? Especially the younger players, and get used to just playing in that high pressure situation. But again, you can scrim all you want, but the real experience, it's now coming back after 2 months, right? So that's my real big question mark. But aside from that, I would agree they've been the most promising looking in the bracket.
Just to touch on this game as well, by the way, God Dead was having a UNICEF level game of just in this map of feeding the masses, man. I've never seen someone. I think he finished with 9 first deaths in this map. It was atrocious.
But I also think that that's part of the reason why I'm high on Team Secret, is because they're the kind of team that's good at punishing sloppy gameplay. And I think for the teams that they're going to be going up against, they can be very swingy. We're looking at RRQ, we're looking at Zeta Division as potential other teams that can go on a run and win this thing. I'm kind of counting Gen.G out at this point, but some of those, there's still a lot of slop there too. I mean, let's move on and talk about the Zeta game where they win it against RRQ. That was insanely close. Came down to the wire. Unbelievable. Like, what was the final score? 21-19 or something?
Yes.
It was 40 rounds
Sweet match.
of Valorant happening. Absolutely ludicrous game, but also unimpressed with Zeta Division's attack side. The weird part is both teams ended up just trading attack sides in OT after being 4-8 down in their attack sides.
Look.
It's crazy. It's absolutely ludicrous. But the actual attack rounds during OT were just awful defensive setups where both teams would just group up and barrel through them. Like, it was so weird because it was quite a boring overtime for the first 6 rounds, because the attacking team would go forwards, it'd be a 5v3 and they just win, and then the next time the attacking team barrels in somewhere and you know that they're going to win again. And then there's some tense rounds, 7 or 8 rounds into overtime, and then it started getting truly crazy towards the end. But I think that the way that Zeta are playing their attack side is sometimes a bit too slow and a bit too cautious, and I think Team Secret is going to be able to punish that level of timidness on their attack. But let's talk about this OT. I mean, what in the Lord's name is going on here?
Yeah,
It's 40 rounds, and Depp has 42 kills at the end of it as well.
No offense, Choba, but when I watch Zeta games as well, and it gets like to scenarios like this where Zeta in like a very important match, I'll switch to the Japanese casters just to listen.
For sure.
And they'll be like, they'll be fucking casting and be like, Zeta Division, Depp, Gambate, like fucking screaming like for these players, like on unbelievable levels of bias, but I fucking love it. I love it so much. I love tuning
I
in
really
for
wish
it.
we could just be that biased on the English broadcast sometimes.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually am. Like I am biased for teams. Like it's actually hard not to be in the Americas audience when you're casting, because there's hardly anybody cheering for any of the Latin Brazilian teams, and so subconsciously you get affected by cheering. It's like so bad when it's like 100 Thieves or Sen versus any of those teams.
Dude, but sorry,
That's the
look
thing, is
at
that
how
a
good
bad
this
thing?
round is.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go on.
I'm still on
Nerd
a
out.
different topic completely.
We're
but
like talking about our
Sorry,
casting woes.
Dude, occasionally some of these rounds were so good though. Like this smoke from Sugar Zero is excellent to be able to get them into the site. Tens, this is what I was talking about. Tens playing Raze on another commonly considered jet map, which actually works well for Zeta, because I feel like Tens Raze is like about the only thing that he ends up getting large amounts of
keep thinking
value
you're
on.
saying tens.
Yeah, I was
No,
confused at first
sorry.
too.
10
apostrophe
like,
yes.
The raise
yeah,
of 10. Yeah.
possessive
Tens
Raze.
is Raze.
Tens is Raze. Well, no, not Tens is Raze.
No,
Tens
not
Raze.
Tens
Tens
Raze.
Raze.
Yeah. But I think if Zeta can tighten things up a little bit, they're actually in a spot where they can potentially win, but it requires them
We've
to.
been saying that for ages.
Yeah, I mean,
but
that's the story of
but
Zeta,
they're
right? Is
showing
that,
bits of it now.
yeah,
And I feel like throughout the season, it was like one round in a map where you'd see the Zeta, where you're like, oh my god, this is them. Whereas here, it was coming out like a fair bit.
And hey, I mean, they're clearly, I'm not sold on the whole Depp on Breach on Haven, but they are willing to try out these changes to see what else can work. And obviously, clearly, I would hope that it's been working in scrims. That's why they pull it out in the official match. And the Ascent changes, right? Depp on Silva, it works out perfectly because you can still be fairly autonomous, especially once you get that Odin. So I think it's good. I do think, I'm glad you mentioned earlier that, Team Secret is a team that's really good at punishing sloppiness, and there is quite a bit of it left in the bracket. But as sloppy as Zeta can be, they're also, like, when push comes to shove, that's when they separate themselves from those Korean teams, and then players like Depp, right, or Laz will just, like, go for these clutches that shouldn't ever happen, right, or these super plays. And I do think that's what makes them the hardest opponent left for Team Secret, not just because of ranking, but stylistically. Even if you punish the sloppiness a bit, there's still that X factor within Zeta where individual players will just say, like, well, screw it, like, I'm just going for this because we have to win it, right? There's no other way we're coming back from this, just sticking to the same plan. So that's what makes them difficult. I will also say, as from a macro picture, as simplistic as the overtime trade-off was for the first couple rounds, I was also very impressed that Zeta was actually reacting to first contact like every time immediately on every round, even on Haven, like even when they were losing, right? So this is something that it's very different from what we've seen from Zeta in the past, where they would like either get the first kill or lose, the first duel, and then they would just sit there and they would be like, well, I guess we wait for our cooldowns to come back. I don't know where else to go because we don't have info on the other side of the map. But this time, both on the Ascent we saw it a lot, and then especially on the Haven, even when they were losing, they get first contact and they say, okay, we got to swing and take control somewhere else. It's just that on Haven they weren't winning those duels, and Ascent they were, or like you said, in overtime both teams were like just leaving only one person on the other side of the map.
Yeah, the OT was kind of crazy. It just felt like both teams abandoned. They knew that they'd messed up their regulation. They knew that their actual like core game plan on the attack side had failed. So they both just shifted to something a bit more simplistic that wasn't the slow-paced stuff that they'd been doing during regulation. I wanted to ask you, who's IGLing for this team anymore? Is it Sugar Zero still?
No, it's been Laz actually coming into Pacific. So Sugar Zero was just a temporary experiment and lock-in. And then they flipped on it right away. I actually think maybe the first couple of games it was back to Crow. I can't remember on that, but for now, as far as we know, unless they're just not telling us right now, Laz has been IGLing through majority of Pacific, and he is still the IGL here in the playoffs.
Interesting. Yeah, Laz didn't even have a great game on Ascent, and they still managed to win, which I think is something to take a look at too. I think this team, for the first time, some little bit of hope is springing in my heart. The ZETA division. But
Oh, your cold, shriveled heart. Seeing some
The first
growth
time
there,
Josh has felt
Grinch.
joy on an episode of the Plat Chat podcast. It's a rare, rare sight. Cherish this moment.
I think it's going to be a banger, the upper final. I think ZETA Team Secret is going to be a banger.
Yeah, no, I think that, and that whoever wins that, especially with the 2, map ban advantage, I think maybe for most regions as well, but especially in Pacific, I think whoever goes on from the upper final has to be strong favorites, just because if you can ban out the maps that you're sloppiest at, like that puts you at such an advantage amongst these 4 teams.
I think
I
if
still think
ZETA
it's-
win, we should move the event to Japan and out of Los
I
Angeles.
agree. I
Like, it
completely
could just
agree.
be like the group stage, but I think
Yeah.
that'd be really good. I think the Japanese fans deserve that.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that's a great idea.
Champs in LA for a month? No, thank you.
No thanks.
Let's go back to Japan.
Return.
Let's go.
Return.
I feel
go
like
back
there's
to
some
Japan.
selfish desire
No,
here.
no. I just love the Japanese fans. I think
it's
they're
nothing
really.
with being based in
really
LA
nice.
for many, many months working the broadcast. No,
Uh-huh.
I still think
Right.
it's pretty up in the air with the Pacific teams. Even though Team Secret looked like the one team that's got it all together, they've only shown the one match, right?
Exactly.
And it was that one, and it was when Gen.G I thought were playing actually quite a bit worse than they did the other day. So I don't know. I still think that RRQ could do some damage. Like if EJ has a really good game, he didn't have a good game against ZETA as much. But
No.
EJ popped off. By the way, EJ's picture, I put it in our thing saying we need to discuss this. Dude, his image is
that?
crazy. He's doing this thing with his glasses. It makes his eyes look really small. Unlike the
Wait, you
unlike
can
the,
just do that. That's crazy.
What are you
yeah,
talking
I mean,
about?
anyone with glasses can do that. I posted it years ago in the Discord. There it is! There it is! We have to talk about it. Look at
That's
it. It's
insane.
so funny.
It's so good.
That's really good.
And just the deadpan face.
Yeah. That
I
is
love it.
excellent.
EJ's like such a jokester. Like even when they're having like rough weeks, you see him before the game, and he's just like happy to say hello to everyone. So it's great to see. He's one of those players that I always just felt bad for, because everyone who's known him before tells me like this guy has potential. This guy has potential. And then he never really showed up, even when they were playing, well towards the later part of the season. He didn't really show up too much. Finally does really well yesterday, and then goes right back to being mediocre today. So we'll see
And
if
yet
he
they
can
still
pick it back
almost
up.
won.
Curious.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying like I feel like if you have that upswing in form for a lot of these teams, and I don't really know who to predict in the grand finals, and I really don't know still who would win. Even though Team Secret, I think would be your favorites.
Let's bring up the bracket, because I feel like Team Secret. I'm just on the Secret train. I was at the beginning. I liked how they played in the regular season. We don't really know too much about the map vetoes. A lot of teams change it coming into LCQ, and they've changed roles and stuff as well. But Team Secret banned Split against Gen.G. And if they ban Split again against ZETA, that just looks like ZETA's best opportunity to be able to get something done. And I think they should have an advantage in the map veto. If that's also a bad map for Team Secret, like that's a great situation to be in if you want to be banning one of your opponent's best maps anyway. So
ZETA's probably banning Haven, right? I mean, their whole role swap experiment with Dep on the Breach did not work out today.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can chalk it up to something else, and then also, I mean, Team Secret loves playing Haven and only going A side. So I think you ban that out if you're Team Secret, or sorry, if you're ZETA, and then like
If
you
you're
said,
ZETA,
if probably the split ban coming out. Either team, they'd love to pick a Sen. I don't think they would mind. Neither one would mind first picking it either, even if the other team's strong. And I think that's just how confident both of them are. My big question would be, if ZETA like picks Fracture, right? That's another map where 10 used to play the Rays really well. And I think that could come back. Maybe that's something they've been cooking. Maybe they go double duelist with Dep on the Jet there, so that he can still op one angle and 10 can still, try to push out with things like the paint
do we
shield on
get the
other
last
side.
chamber at any point? That's another question,
yeah.
because we haven't
Well,
seen much
we've
of their
all been
map pool
cooking
yet.
it. Yeah, I've been talking about it a long time as well. I mean, Chamber was still experimenting with before the small buffs on Bind specifically, so that's a map that they couldn't quite figure out when they tried it, I think, twice at the end of the season into playoffs. So
And they banned it in the game against RRQ as well. So
Yeah.
So
And they
maybe
didn't play
not.
it on Split either. I'm kind of doubtful that they'll pull it
Yeah.
out. I feel like
But
a lot
he
of their
was-
practice was probably just more fundamental focus than trying to like reinvent comps in the offseason.
True. True. He
Yeah.
was playing Cypher, right? So there's a little bit of glimmer that maybe, there is a world where on something like Bind he could play Chamber, but he could also just very well play Cypher on Bind if they go there. So maybe we're hoping too much. But yeah, I mean, I think the Zeta versus Team Secret is much more condition based. Like they both feel pretty confident on Ascent. Fracture maybe I give to Zeta just because of their form right now. But I will say RRQ dropping to the lower bracket is the worst thing that can happen to them because they never figured out how to get over their failed experiment on Lotus, and they've been first banning it ever since like week 4 or something, or week 3. And they just clearly they still don't want to play it. And the moment, even if RQ goes into the grand finals, the other team's going to be like, well, it couldn't be, we can't be worse than their Lotus, and they're just going to leave it open and let it happen in the first 3 maps, and RQ's probably not going to win that one.
Yeah. So I want to get Preds. I mean, there's barely any of the bracket left. There's like, oh, well, I guess there's like half the bracket left, but yeah, I don't think you can actually do the pick'ems anymore because they lock it. Because obviously you have like more info, but we can just kind of go through it visually. But upper finals, Zeta versus Secret. Who have people got? That's the real one that matters.
I'm on the Secret train for all the reasons already discussed. I think they weren't playing against the most tested opponent, but also like Zeta, even though they won Ascent, I feel like we're just looking goofy in a lot of rounds. I just don't have confidence in them yet.
Oh, this is our pick'em that we did before?
Oh
yeah, looks like
yes,
it. Because
we had Talon beating Gen.G and that didn't happen. So this is clearly our pick'em.
I mean, this bracket could have easily happened in another universe.
Could have though, yeah.
Gen.G Talon was really close. Zeta
any
Rex,
bracket could happen in another universe.
That's true.
That's not really a great line to say we were close to
It's
being
actually
right.
crazy. I actually think my individual pick'em is near identical, if not exactly the same as that pick'em bracket.
So are we sticking to it? Is Team Secret beating Zeta? Chobra, Bren?
I would agree. I think analytically you have to favor Secret. If Zeta wins, it's going to be off of heroics again, in my opinion.
I don't agree with it. It's as easy to break down Zeta's slow attack side than you think, because I think that puts double pressure on the opposing team as well. When Zeta play like that, I hate it so much because it feels like you're just destined to cock up. But there've been moments where like it's always worked in their favor, even though they play incredibly slow like that. I'm gonna go.
It literally doesn't matter what you pick because we're going Secret anyway.
I'll go. Yeah, you're going Secret anyway. Frick it. I'll say Zeta.
All right. Okay. Well,
I chose an hour 15 into the episode to say frick as well.
I assume we've got RRQ going through against Gen.G. Is any Gen.G believers down there?
I think RRQ over Gen.G is reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then that would set up a potential RRQ versus Zeta division, which would be a rematch.
Yeah.
Are we getting 40 rounds again on the Decider map? They literally played more rounds in that final map than they did in the whole of the first 2.
Yes. Jeez. I don't. No, I mean, I think if you rematch RRQ, I think RRQ wins. The only thing that plagues me is that, like, RRQ thinks the one match they shouldn't have lost that they did during the regular season was also Zeta. And then EJ even goes on to say in one of those videos, he's like, well, I think one of the most overrated players in Pacific is Depp. And then Depp just absolutely...
Yeah, that was so funny.
So, I mean, maybe there is a stylistic thing, right? Maybe that whole slow thing, that's how you get RRQ antsy, no matter how much they practice. And here's the thing, I don't know if, like, 2 days, especially for RRQ, they're in the lower bracket, they gotta play another match, if that's enough for them to, like, really bunker down on fundamentals. But
it would be guaranteed a different map pool, though, right? Like, there's no world in which they go back in and they're just getting rid of Bind instead of Haven. Like,
probably
Zeta are surely going to be banning Haven, maybe for the rest of the
Zeta
tournament with how that worked.
Yes.
And then RRQ, like you said, have got to get rid of Lotus. So maybe, yeah, I suppose in that sense, the updated map pool might favor Zeta a bit more because they still get to play their split. Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe Fracture, right? If we're hoping off of that, if Ten still plays Race. So, maybe in that world, Zeta is favored.
I think that's a hard call again. Team's usually favored in rematches, though, so...
Yes.
Maybe you would go RRQ, but...
I think that's much more of a trend thing, right? I agree with that. Like, part of me really wants to lean towards RRQ, but if we think about draft and things like that, then I would have to raise Zeta's hand just a tad bit.
Oh my God, sorry. I'm just taking a look. Koi
Yeah.
are up
no, no.
12-3
What's happening?
over Na'Vi right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
second
no.
match.
That's a
After they're
brutal game.
already,
Dude,
they already
it's
won on
Jova.
split.
13-6 or something.
They're destroying them on
It's
Lotus as well.
Jova.
Oh,
They just
my
won the bonus
God.
round.
God.
Oh my God, CNED's playing Neon on Lotus with a Sova and a Cypher.
It's over.
Oh,
it's
no.
over.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Oh.
Wait, it's Koi Crew Karmine Corp. It's
Koi
God, you're
Karmine
right.
Corp, baby.
I don't want to talk about EMEA.
no. Well, I'm
Let's
afraid
know.
that's what's coming up next.
No, I want to talk
Oh,
about,
no,
I'll talk about tier 1 EMEA.
Okay.
You mean
well,
Fnatic and only Fnatic.
Fnatic and
No,
the
he means
Ascension
gentle
tournament.
mates.
Gentle Mates is tier 1 Valorant in EMEA. I don't want to talk about the VCT season.
All right. Well, it's like 1:45 a.m. Chobra. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you go. We'll bring
sure.
in TMV and we'll go to a bit of a break. Thanks a ton for joining us, though. It's been a blast.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having me.
Yeah, of course. And we'll be looking forward to watching you commentate in Pacific LCQ. We'll be tuning in. Do you know the next match that you're doing?
Actually, I'm done on the English side. I'm casting on the Korean side for the lower finals. So if you guys want to watch the Korean side, and maybe if Gen.G makes a miraculous run, we'll also be biased on the Korean side.
Oh, hell
and get
yeah.
hype for that best of 5. So you can tune into that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I mean, that would be a banger of a match if Gen.G were able to pull it out. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I guess, Kurt, are we head into like a 3-minute break or something while we sub in
Yeah,
TMV?
we'll do a quick break, get a snack, get a potty break, and we'll get TMV in here.
Yippee.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
Chobra.
Thank you, Joe.
So anyway, back to my point. I think that we should be violently biased on the English broadcast
I need
when
to
it's
go.
Okay.
like
I am
NA versus a
biased.
South American. Well, I think you should be more biased. I'm saying, like, it's not obvious enough.
But
like,
it's not obvious
You
enough?
just need to be screaming like 100 thieves, 100 thieves, just fucking like yelling the team name over and over again, freaking out.
Because the language broadcast, they have their own regional broadcast. So that's my logic going into
Yeah.
it. Is like, it's not as bad of an issue.
Yeah, I don't think it should be for like the global events, but for
No, I
Americas when it's NA
Anyway, I gotta go to
teams.
the bathroom, but I agree.
Okay, Brent's gonna be
Take, we
biased
should
now,
be more
guys.
biased.
Am I on?
Hello.
hello.
Yes.
Hello.
I'll be right back.
That was perfectly timed with Na'Vi just tossing.
Yes, they literally perfectly timed. Thank God they played a Brim Neon Sova comp.
That's what we were just talking LCQ. I refreshed the page and I'm like, oh no. What has
On their map
happened
pick, by
here?
the way. They picked that map and lost 13-3. Oh,
Jesus Christ.
dear. Classic Navi.
I wonder what the odds were at the start of that game. Because when you refresh, it only tells you like what the most recent ones were.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, good Lord. 4.4 pre-match odds for Koi. That's
And it was,
ridiculous.
wait, how many rounds in a row did they win? It was quite a lot.
I'm
From the
looking at
first map to
timeline.
the second, because they didn't lose in a.
Oh, yeah.
They won 8 in a row. Oh, well, they won what? 13, 21 of 24 rounds.
Yeah, they won 11 rounds in a row between Split and Lotus.
And then won 21 of 24. Yeah,
That's absurd. That is
a lot of rounds.
Did you guys want to start the next part of the show with Koi and Karmine Corp instead of
Yeah,
Gentlemates?
let's swap it around. We will talk. I do want to run through Gentlemates just like quickly. I don't think Brendan Mimi got a chance to watch the game, but I watched it and I assume you did, TMV.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do
Yeah,
that after,
so-
and then we'll do America.
America.
I haven't got any clips from the Koi game, and the Karmine game is just the trolling. So, you might need to source some other stuff. But yeah, good God, all of the LCQs are just madness.
I mean, you could talk about this boy game recently. I mean, just show. I mean, they won't be uploaded yet, will they? The VODs, but
Nah, not really. I mean, we could find
I mean,
some
you can-
timestamps from the live game though on YouTube. Kurt's a
yeah.
mastermind.
I mean, there's anything. I mean, just show the Lotus comp.
Yeah.
Just show Navi's Lotus comp and Koi played well, to be fair. They did play well. Trex was getting a kill with a nade every round.
Trex is
there was a
very
3v5 that
talented
they
player.
threw. Navi lost a 3v5. Was it round 13? I think it was. You want to
Bren's disappeared, so I'm just going to wait a second for him to come back. But hello, everybody. We're back. We're going to talk. So the plan for the rest of this is that we're going to be talking about EMEA. We're going to talk about the LCQ, then Ascension, and then we're going to talk about Americas too. And that should take us the next, I don't know, hour and a bit to get through all of that stuff. But I mean, I just want to start already. I don't
Let's
care.
do it.
Bren's
Let's do
probably
it.
trying to shovel out the water that's flooded out of his laundry
I don't
machine.
think Bren
or
wants to
something.
talk about Navi. So let's just
True,
get it over
actually,
with
he
Willie's gone.
really doesn't.
I also don't want to, but unfortunately I came back. So
All right, Koi and Karmine Corp are going on a run. They're both making it to the finals. Is that even possible in the bracket? No, they would have to make it to the upper final and play against each other. But it's happening. I'm telling you, it's happening. It's just happening. Koi, to start with, TMV, actually look good. Like, they look like they fixed some stuff. Starzo's playing Perma Sky, and he's owning again. Don't know where that came from. Trex on Duelist Trex is always an amazing player, but Wolfen started going crazy too. And suddenly the team is clicking.
I saw that they were starting their crew cosplay, these two teams, and having watched their first games, I was like, I'm not sure that, like, crew, I think, have actually gotten a lot better. Like, crew look good. I was about to say for these two teams, like, hold on. They beat two other mid teams, two very mid teams, I would say. And, you know, they kind of scraped by, still looked a bit shaky. That game that Koi just played, you wouldn't have watched it if you were watching this podcast, because, you know, you're watching this podcast. The Koi just destroyed Navi, and like, you could have swapped the teams. If you would have swapped the teams, you would have been like, that makes sense. Like, this was a destruction. Yes, Navi are trolling. We'll talk about Navi in a second. But Koi were genuinely good. Trex is frying on Raze, absolutely frying. And like you say, Wolfen. The thing is, I saw it in one of the Reddit threads, like, Wolfen was never a bad player. Wolfen was always the most inconsistent player in the world. He was either good Wolfen, or he was basically you're in a 4v5. That was Wolfen's experience in the regular season. And they got far too many of the 4v5s. Wolfen now is playing good Wolfen, and this is the Koi that was promised. Finally, I had Koi as like my second or third ranked team, and like, you know, before the season started. I was like,
think
this
we did at the
roster's
beginning
good.
too.
Yeah, this roster's good. Shados is amazing. Trex is amazing. Watch this. And then they just shat the bed. And I can swear, because we're not. I'm only 5 minutes in, but we're not. But thank God. I mean, it's so nice to just see this team play well, because they were so frustrating. And Barbar's smiling. I don't think I've ever seen him smile before. I don't think I've ever seen him smile before. And he's
first
smiling.
time for everything.
And it's weird. It's actually kind of weird. You know, it's like when that grumpy teacher kind of, you know, is nice.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of like, well, I don't like it. Like, it is
It's like
kind
seeing
of
a
weird.
wolf smile. You don't know whether it's going to go for your throat or whether it's happy with you.
you ask your substitute teacher about his time in like the Vietnam War, and he suddenly is just like, "Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this."
Yeah, that's a very American problem, I think. We don't.
Yeah, that's probably a very, very. Okay, that's. I'm thinking of a very specific substitute teacher at my high school. Moving on.
And he was
moving
excited to talk about it. I feel
Well,
like that was one of the most like PTSD-inducing wars
I
of
guess
all
it depends
time.
on what happened. Let's move on from this.
What has happened?
We're talking about the American education system's weirdness,
Yeah, okay.
and also
So,
Koi being good,
Koi,
which is also
Koi,
just
Koi,
as
Koi.
weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
Are Koi good now?
I mean, it's looking like
It
it.
seems so.
Not that we really caught their biggest win, which is over Na'Vi, because we were doing this, but my lord. I mean, let's run it through just roughly what's happening in this Na'Vi game. I mean, can we just take a look at the VLR page for the Na'Vi Koi? Because on Split, I was tuning in and out because this was as we were getting ready for the show, this first game was happening. So I watched most of this, and when it opened up, I was like, okay, I'm pretty happy with this. The composition looks good. They've got Zipan back on Raze.
Yep.
I quite like it. I've seen CNED be good on Sage before. Shao's back on Initiator. This is everything that everyone wanted for Na'Vi. And then I was watching, like, Shao have some excellent rounds, and Sugetsu be able to get in and into some nice positions. Koi win both pistols, and I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. It was a 6-6 half. Then Koi win the bonus, and it's just looking rough for Na'Vi. And then Koi won the next rifle round, and Bren is just in. We're getting ready, building the run of show, and Bren's like, it's Jova. It's absolutely Jova. It is Jova.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying the exact same things. They've made me look like a fool, to be honest, because I said all the same things. The comp, it's like everyone's on an agent that they're comfortable with. Everyone's on an agent that they've played a lot of before, if not their main agent. So I was like, that's good. That's a good start. And then the first half, it looked like, okay, two competitive teams. Koi looked like they're a bit better. Like, it looks competitive. Then Na'Vi started attacking, and it was just like, wherever they went, they couldn't deal with an op, was the first problem, right? When you look at this comp, you know, they only have the Omen Flash, and they only have, you know, the Omen Smokes as well. So that was commonly kind of costing them, where if they did run into an op, and they couldn't find it straight away with the Fade stuff, you know, that's a tough fight.
What are you doing, Angel?
Angel's commonly still doing stuff like that, and yeah, they just didn't know exactly how to attack. I mean, Split's always been a map for them that's kind of they troll every map, Vito. Holy, why are you? I mean, like, you're playing this weird comp, we'll get to it in a second. Why do they always, in these games that you must win, they always pick Lotus, and they've always sucked at that map? Always. They did it in the lock-in semifinals against Fnatic, and I'll never forgive them for it. They just always troll.
What are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even theorize how that would work. I mean, it just looks
one problem
nonsense.
they have in this specific game is they're playing a Sage against Koi. Koi move like tectonic plates. So you put up a Sage wall at 120, and Koi will wait 40 seconds, and they don't care. And so the Sage gives you nothing against Koi, because Koi will just sit there and just happily watch you waste all your utility, and then, you know, you basically have an agent with no utility. So that was another
Na'Vi are
problem.
playing solo Brimstone. I just pulled
Let's
up
get to
I looked at
Lotus,
this.
yeah.
They're playing solo Brimstone. You're gonna have to chain me up in a medieval dungeon to make me watch this game.
Listen. But some
What
of the-
you're gonna have to get the stretching machine out. I'm gonna need to be elongated a foot to have to watch this. What?
No, I can see the vision.
Please, Brennan.
The
Please,
Cypher,
Coach Brent.
I've seen teams play the solo smoke Cypher before. Like, some teams on Lotus like to play it. Like, PaperX like to play it, and they get a lot of value. It is usually with double jewelers, correct?
Yeah, the jet
Can you
smokes are quite
explain
useful.
it with Neon
But
Silva?
the jet smokes are quite useful. But I'm just saying, like, the Brim.
Like, how are you gonna rotate on your attacking side? They won 3 rounds on
I
attack.
haven't watched this map. Lotus is so fucking big. How does Angel get value? He can't
That's what
smoke
I'm
for
wondering.
anybody.
That's my question.
Well, look at the score, Bryn. That's how much value they get.
Yeah,
I don't think he got value.
Did you
I'm
see-
telling you.
Did you
I'm
see
not watching
Sliggy's
EMEA
clip?
until Fnatic start playing.
Sliggy had such a phenomenal clip. I mean, had me cackling this morning. It was, I think, from yesterday's games previewing Na'Vi, and someone said, how do you fix Na'Vi? Like, what are the big ways that you can help them? And Sliggy made the joke of, like, it's actually quite simple. Like, it's 1 hour, 5 minutes work. Like, seriously, guys. Like, he was saying to us about Leviatan. But he was like, genuinely, it's so simple. You just Angel brings you a comp, and you say no. That's the whole clip.
Yeah.
Then that's the whole clip. And it's so fucking funny because, I mean, map 1, you've gotta like the comp. No one can have issues with the comp. It fails anyway. Map 2, gooped beyond belief, also fails. I mean, it's not like that's the common thread.
The thing is, as well, I remember Angel said, it was last year when everyone was playing Neon on Fracture. Angel, Yinsu or someone in a post-match interview asked him, like, why are you not playing any Neon, like, on Fracture or whatever? And he was like, I think Neon's trash. And, like, just a bad agent. And he wouldn't explain why, because he didn't want to explain to the other teams why he thought Neon was trash. And so I think this might be the first time they've ever played Neon. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, sometimes it feels like they're almost trying. You know, it's like they must know the joke at this point as well. Oh, this round as well. Holy. Colder Menta's getting 3 kills. Explain this. This happened multiple times, by the way. Even Colder Menta.
The other thing, too, actually, when I was watching this game on the first map, the bits that I actually watched, was that the Na'Vi players actually still looked like they were informed to me. I don't know whether that changed in map 2, but on an individual level, the fights they're taking, they still look fairly sharp with it. People like Shao Sugetsu, CNED too, like winning the wide swinging Wolfland's op and still being able to kill him in B main,
that's true.
being able to like get some genuinely like good Na'Vi moments where they're just incredibly rifle skilled. But what I was impressed by was that it was just coming straight back at them. Like Shados was going nuts and Trex was going nuts and Coldamentus started fragging and Stars was having big games. And it's like you actually don't have the skill advantage anymore against Koi. The on paper value of those players is starting to rear its head again, as it was at the very beginning of the season when you're having big performances out of Starzo and Shados.
You might not have
I mean,
seen
again in the game against an RV, right? Didn't they? Isn't that the big one where Starzo and Shados went nuts? It was in the game against an RV in the regular season.
First week of the season, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, as well, they said on the broadcast against EDG, Tokyo. Apparently, Navi lost 11 1vx's, where EDG have 1 and they have X. Apparently, they lost 11 in their two maps. They lost 11 in this one as well. They've lost a 1v2, two 1v2s, 3 1v1s, and a 1v3 as well. And this didn't have that many rounds. So
Yeah, that's rough.
I don't know how they're losing this many situations. Obviously, like 1v1s are somewhat random, right? You know, a lot of it's going to be somewhat random, but holy, I don't know if that's a sign of, I don't know, they just aren't on the same page. They're just all swinging on their own or something. I don't know.
Okay,
But yeah, there you go.
I want us to try to answer this question. Is it possible Na'Vi do not make it to champions despite the fact that their region has 2 spots that go to champs?
There's
Yes,
no
it
way.
is possible.
There's no way, man.
I could see them losing.
When they're in the
Surely
last
not.
round, Brand, they have to win 2
There's
games.
no
You didn't see
way.
what I just saw.
There's no way.
This man is traumatized. Listen to him.
What I've watched of Karmine Corp so far.
Okay, yeah,
Dude.
okay, though.
God damn, man! You think Karmine Corp?
No, he's
No,
not saying Karmine Corp
Giants.
beat him. One of Giants
Giants
or
or
Koi
Koi.
has to beat them. One of
Yeah.
those 2 teams. I see either of those teams beating them. Like,
Well, we haven't
it's-
seen Giants yet.
possible.
Let's be
Giants
fair.
yet, but I would have had more faith in Giants than Koi.
Giants at the end of the season looked
I
solid. They
think
were making
you guys-
improvements.
No, you're
They've
onto
had a month
something.
off.
Dude, it's
They didn't
fucking
look as good as
Jova.
Koi
It's
look
fucking
now.
Jova. It's over, man.
No,
It's
Giants.
over.
This is the thing about Giants. I was talking about this yesterday. Who are the most boring teams out of all of the teams in partnership? I was coming up with a list of like who's the most boring teams. Leviatan are up there, but Giants are way up there because the thing is, teams who are interesting have some kind of arc or on note. Like DFM aren't the most boring team because they keep losing, and that's kind of interesting. But like Giants are just the same. They are the same team.
They're
Every
perennially
week,
fun.
They're a solid middle of the pack team. That's what you get with Giants. You know, for the most part. Okay, I'm seeing they lost 2-0 to Heretics. I guess not that week. But most of the time, they're like a solid team. That's what they'll be. That is who I think Giants will be, and that team would beat Na'Vi, who just played.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I
God
think
help
that
us all.
I think Na'Vi. I'm crying now. I'm crying over there.
So you're telling me Giants
Na'Vi are
Giants
out.
is
I
gonna
think they're
beat
finished.
Giants is gonna get upset by Karmine Corp. They're gonna go down the lower bracket. They're gonna beat Na'Vi.
No,
and then
if Giants lose to Karmine Corp, Na'Vi are in. That means Giants. That means Giants are bad.
no, that means Karmine Corp's good.
Dude, Karmine
you
Corp
don't you don't know what they've been doing last night.
Imagine if
I
Karmine
have
Corp goes to
insider information.
champs.
They've been in the VOD dungeon. They've been focused up. They're fucking training,
lying.
and they're gonna win this game.
no Karmine
They're
Corp?
gonna win
You're
this
lying.
game.
There's no
Yep,
way.
they're gonna beat
I'm just
Giants,
gonna
and
show
then
you
Giants
one
is gonna
clip.
do the same
Sarah,
exact
can you
thing.
get
Is
up
it-
round 23?
Don't do that. Don't do no, 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 no. Karmine Corp's winning it all. Don't, Curtis. I asked one thing of you. Do not show that clip. Karmine Corp is winning
there
it
an
all.
What
Aim
map?
Labs
What map?
routine
I
for
want to know. I
trading?
don't know what this is. What map?
Find round
Bind.
23.
Yeah,
Do
bind
not
round
show
Go to
this
the end.
clip.
Go, yeah, go.
I'm watching that. I actually stopped mopping up my floor from my flooded laundry machine as I was watching that. I was gobsmacked.
I've
I
already
couldn't believe
linked
what I was
it.
seeing.
Which
I've already
was
linked it,
worse,
Kurt.
Bren? Mopping the floor from your sopped up, soaking wet, flooded apartment, or watching the Karmine Corp BBL game?
Well, it was all happening simultaneously. It was like a breakdown at the same time. It was just, I was witnessing that. Pansy and Hypo couldn't stop laughing. They were like
Yeah.
actually having Joker moments throughout that game. Like they had fallen into the vat in the comic books of Batman, and they were both turning into the Joker from the Joker movie. Like it was, and the gameplay itself, isn't it towards the end?
Oh,
yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we can
You
just
wanna
we
just
can
play it
just
out?
just
This is
soak
art.
it all in. Just
Yeah, this
soak
is
it all
pure
in.
art.
Yeah, because also
dog,
we
I
should
mean-
watch the round. In fact, let's just leave this running because we want to watch the round after this as well.
Dude,
I mean,
they're
round
both
23
so
round.
bad.
Because to set the scene here, Karmine Corp were up 12. What was it? 12-7 or something?
Yeah.
Look at it. They got first pick advantage.
Oh, we'll get more
There's
than
no
that.
way.
Brent, do you
There's no way they
remember
lose
the
this, right?
beginning of the year? Karmine Corp played against BBL and they threw 5. No, it was
my God.
11. They won like 1 out of
Yes.
11 map points that day. And they threw them
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
God.
It's exactly the same. History is being repeated before your very
won.
eyes. Yeah, but they were tossing away
Well,
all of them
okay,
at points.
We'll keep watching. Like,
Wait,
how do you lose
How
this,
do we
this
lose this?
advantage?
It's 5v2.
How do you lose this?
Oh,
Wait,
it
Casey's
gets
just gonna
worse.
win.
It
No,
gets
it's
worse.
fine.
You
It's
think-
fine. It's fine.
Brave
Oh,
is
surely
trying to
Brave
break.
sprays them all down here.
I'm like, Brave makes a great play. Patience being played at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And then.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's 4v1,
You're done.
guys.
You're done.
Wait, why are we
4v1.
watching this round? I don't think this
Oh,
is the right round.
Seekers. They got Seekers. They know where he is as well. No free
Yeah.
kills.
Yep.
Oh, no chance.
Oh,
Good
he's
stun.
stunned. He's getting updrafted on, flashed, mollied. It's over.
Well,
okay,
one.
we're gonna
Molly
trade.
themselves.
We're gonna trade.
One.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna trade. Update.
are you all
No
going?
traders.
Why
No
are you not
traders.
playing together? What are you all doing? The
You
next
just play the
round
next
isn't
round
any
as
better.
well, Kurt.
Just
Keep
play
it
the
going,
next
Kurt.
round.
Keep it
Keep
going.
it going.
Keep it going, bro. Keep it going. Yeah, you have to skip the timeout in between, but holy shit. I mean,
All right, we take a timeout after that one, you know? A coach is coming in here, giving some calming words. Calmez-vous, calmez-vous. Ah, d'accord. Okay. Next round. Here we go. Scream's up top. He has a great play here.
Oh.
No, it's fine.
yeah, Turco gets 1, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Karmine Corp can still retake. Their
Salvageable.
retakes have not been good, but it'll be fine.
4v5
Salvageable.
retake.
He'll be fine, right?
Yes, we're doubled up. We're already pulling out their utility early. Great flash.
Yeah, very good flash. Trailblazer 2. I mean, they probably should be having somebody push from triple at this point, but
Nice
the
little
focus very
combo with
heavily
the
on
paranoia there.
on lamps. Turco gets another. Turco gets a third. Turco gets a fourth. Turco gets an ace.
Fifth.
After getting a
Yeah.
1v4 in the prior round, he then aces to send them into overtime, and they lose immediately.
And I'm witnessing this gameplay. They just lose immediately after Turco does that.
Yeah.
Yo, if you scroll to the winning moment, Kurt, I was cracking up because it reminded me of the meme of the third place guy spraying champagne all over the place when all of Karmine Corp started celebrating. Dude, it was killing me when I was watching the winning moment because everyone from Karmine Corp was just like, look at them. Just like, look, I think Scream starts cheering to the crowd at some point. Listen, respect for it. It's an important match. It's elimination.
They did win.
Yes.
To be
They
fair,
did
after
win.
their
It's- yeah,
season,
they
I
won.
would go crazy too.
They won. It's yep. It just this moment after I'm watching that gameplay, I was like, okay, fair enough. Empathy is kicking in right now.
I
by
really
the
like
way.
that the cameraman only looks at Scream.
Yeah.
I think that's
Follow
really
him around.
fitting.
But yeah.
The,
Number one,
I,
Scream.
I do want to point out, like, I do want to take a look at just one more little clip from mine, which was good. It's the first clip that's linked there, and it's incredible, truly, that Karmine Corp do look better, but still find so many ways to beef. And I think I think Koi are genuinely on a run. But when I'm watching the Omen operator TP into a Brimway and die,
What is that?
I mean,
There's no
that's
way.
a disaster.
There's no
That's what
way.
that
There's
is.
just no way. There's just
There are
no
so
way.
many safe spots that you can play from. There's a one-way Viper Orb with a snake bite down. You can hop on the barrel and take a peek towards short. You can tuck. You can try and play so that, you know, your Viper gets out and you double up a triple in heaven.
To be
There
fair,
are things
he
you can
pressed
do
the
here.
TP button before the ultimate bloomed. He only
No,
heard
he
the ult
hears
noise.
the ult.
He hears
He hears the
ult.
ultimate. He doesn't know where it's going yet. He doesn't know where it's going yet.
No.
Wait, rewind the clip. Rewind
That's
the clip.
cold.
Wait.
You hear it, you're
I'm
right,
gonna
look.
vindicate him. Rewind the clip.
Look at this. Look at this. You're telling me you don't hear this on LAN?
Look at it.
No.
Look
The
at it.
wide shot. Where's the wide shot? Wait,
Look at it.
I'm capping. Never mind.
You are so
I'm
capping.
lying. Me when I lie. Me when I.
Okay, look. The ult
Oh, because
is
it
still
disappears.
going.
Yeah. It does the thing where it disappears for a second and then it. Yep. Okay.
The timing
I just
is
saw that
so
one frame.
perfect.
It
It's
is-
so incredibly
It is
perfect.
amazing.
That is insane.
Yeah, but I mean,
Dude, I'm
yeah,
convinced they're not playing Valorant to practice. They got to be playing some other game. They got to be doing the Cloud9 strat. Like, they got to be playing old school RuneScape or something, man. Because, like, that's just, like, they're not... I don't know.
okay.
just don't know.
I want to talk about more of the LCQ stuff, but because we're talking Karmine Corp, I do want to take a little tangent to talk about Gentle Mates. And then we can return back to some LCQ stuff in a second. But when you're watching Karmine Corp play, and Scream is back on IGL, and, you know, XMS is doing that kind of stuff, and they're scraping out wins, but they're there, and they're just about making it. And then you look at what was happening over in Tier 2. Gentle Mates are a French team that were playing in the French kind of system. And this is the kind of caliber of player that XMS was dunking on, playing Chamber in the French leagues, but being the MVP of the league. And this is the difference between having quality players, right, that are just in a horrible team together, and having other players that are good, very solid players that actually have a system that works, and they're willing to make coordinated plays aggressively, and their timings are good, and they have a read on the game. They impressed me so much in the lower final and final here. I mean, they're so proactive. They were taking control of the tempo. They forced the choke out of Apex because Apex couldn't handle what was happening at all times. They were taking opportunities when they were presented. They played with no fear. They went out there, grabbed it. Bayaz is looking like a good IGL. Takas is popping off on Duelist. And the Tank looks like a great flex player. Logan's going crazy with old Logan, like aim with the one taps on pistol rounds and with the Guardian in his hand and shit. Like, hello, French team that I can get behind? Let's fucking go!
Actual French team.
Yeah, this as well was... I mean, this was a massive shock. If you only watched the lower final and grand final, you will have come away thinking, whoa, this Gentle Mates team is amazing. Thing is, both Ascend and Apex, who were kind of the two teams that everyone had as like the best tier 2 EMEA teams from like the very start of the year, both those teams had beaten Gentle Mates already in this tournament.
Yeah.
Like in the Ascension tournament.
In the groups and at the
they were
beginning,
like,
right?
and you watch when like Gentle Mates beat Ascend and then won against Apex, like, you know, Ascend is my org. So like all the players were tweeting out like, oh my god, I didn't realize the Gentle Mates had that in them. You know, the Tank literally dropped the highest kills anyone ever has on LAN. He dropped a 40 bomb on a LAN against
And then
Ascend
was almost immediately overtaken by Depp. Yeah.
But he dropped the first 40 bomb on LAN. I mean, look at the game against Ascend. If you just click on the game against Ascend, Kurt,
The lower
lower
final,
one,
yeah.
Look at the Tank's overall scoreline. He goes, what? Plus 34, 83, and 49 in three maps.
That's ridiculous. That is
In
ridiculous.
three
Look
maps.
Nuts. And they
And
play
they just-
strange comps too. And
Yo,
it's
they
not
played
like the
double
map pool
duelist a
shifted.
ton, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like
Yeah.
the map pool shifted massively between the first time they played against Ascend in the playoffs and then this time. The map pool was
that's a
somewhat similar, but they just completely flipped their form, their aggression, the way that they were taking fights. They grabbed hold of the tempo of these games so
like-
well.
It was like EG, it's like ZETA Division at Reykjavik. It's like EG recently, where you just kind of, all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you just play with utter confidence,
Yeah,
and
the
nothing can
form's all
stop you.
there.
And it started with the Tank against Ascend, and then everyone else just started going like, okay, we're actually going to do this. And it felt like in the grand final against Apex, like, Gentle Mates looking like, yeah, anytime they got into a clutch, Bayaz 1v2, Logan 1v2, it was automatic. It was like there's just no way they were ever going to lose these rounds. They just played with such confidence. And it was just like, you know, it's just that psychological thing of like, there's no way we lose. Their fans, by the way, were insane. They got the best fans of any team. Like those people going crazy there in the back were insane the whole time.
I
Like
do
The
love this
pop-offs from the
storyline.
team too. Like every time they won like a single round, just someone's getting out of their chair, just like punching it,
Yeah, because
punching the air,
they
going
weren't
crazy.
expecting
Like,
themselves
They
to
were
do
the
it.
young ones.
Like
That's what I mean.
they-
The
yeah.
storyline of this, what I love most about this Ascension system, you look at a lot of franchise esports systems, and they're the talk of the town these days because, you know, Owl's dead and the announcement came out, but there's been a lot of like new discussion around franchised esports systems and people talking about the success of them. But one of the best things about Valorant, I think, is this Ascension system, which is, as close as you're going to get to the middle ground of trying to have like relegation promotion type system in it.
God, it's so
you
good.
get moments like this.
Yeah.
You get moments like this where you have
so
this
cool.
storyline of this team that wasn't expecting it to make it all the way through, and now they get to play with the big dogs. Like, this is a team the August formed, 3 months ago? Like, it's
a big content creator that's behind it, though. And it's
creator
immediately
behind it,
generated
but
a lot of traction.
it's
They had
crazy.
like 150k viewers for this, 125k, something like that.
I mean, EMEA
like, massive
Riot's
viewership.
Riot's
They needed
secretly
that.
like, yes, get
Absolutely.
in, gentlemates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
awesome
incredible
storyline.
what this team has done. It really is an amazing storyline because someone posted on Reddit the comparison between the 3 second place teams in Ascension, all with fantastic win rates. You had M80 in Americas who were, it's not like they were the best team, but they were like neck and neck with the Guard the whole time. Sometimes the best, sometimes second, etc. And then you have Apex, who I think were clearly the best team in EMEA the whole time literally up until the grand final. And then Scars in Pacific, who were a good team. They don't fit the mold exactly as well as the other two, but a very good team that could have made it through. But this one is this is the only upset result that we've had in Ascension. It's a massive upset, but I think it's fantastic. The Karmine Corp guys as well must have been not knowing who they wanted to win, because on one side you've got like Enzo, and then on the other side you've got a full French squad to try and pick from. I feel like the best case scenario for them would have been Ascend winning Ascension, so that they had their pick of the litter
they
from
had their
other
pick of the litter
places.
with the French players. Yeah,
But now
I completely
they've
agree.
got genuine competition for like fans and stuff as well. I'm sure the Karmine Corp fans are pretty diehard because they seem insanely like baked in, but. This
But
is
it's
gonna
another
create
content
some
creator org.
awesome
like
stuff.
the French fans are so passionate. Like every Gentlemates versus Karmine Corp game is just gonna be fucking nuts. Like
Battle for ninth, they'll call it.
yeah. And they'll go
No,
nuclear.
Gentlemates.
God.
No, I'm
Gentlemates
worried for
might
them
do
next year.
something.
I'm worried for them because, as I said, they lost to Apex and Ascend, and they did not look
Well, it's-
good
well,
in
it's
those
about
games.
making the most
This
of
felt like a
Yeah.
brief, like we just woke up. Now maybe they can carry that into next year. That it's possible.
I think
but
that's a valuable trait that we haven't seen that much during the regular season is your clutch potential, like your ability to go on a run to perform when it actually
Yeah, but it's
matters.
really hard to keep that up over a 9-week
That's
split
what I mean.
and then
you
like
don't see it in
another
a
split right
you don't
after.
see it in the regular season, but it's an important quality because
yeah, but
ultimately
when they're
what it means
1
is,
and 8, they don't need it.
bro. I mean,
What do you mean when you wanted? You can go on runs if you're 0 and 9 apparently within the Valorant system.
We'll talk about crew later, but ultimately it's a thing that we forget a lot of the time. But you have to be able to perform when it actually matters, and a lot of teams it's easy, I think, to get into like just a depressed state of just running through the motions week after week when things take a downturn. But on tournaments, you can go and run when your form's hot like that. It's an important trait. And I think as well, we haven't really discussed it too much, but it was Apex, right, where you just had such a downswing in performance from individuals that have already been noted for having those slip ups in big moments, like players like Mystic as well, who in the past, part of the reason why it was them getting removed from Fnatic was that they weren't able to perform when it mattered. It was very rare that he had these upswings in performances, and now it's happened again in one of the biggest matches.
The thing is, I don't think Mystic had some moments where he was fumbling the bag for sure, but he also had some moments where he was winning a clutch or making a big play or something like that. So I think it wasn't necessarily that he just completely shit the bed in this game, and the same for Magnum actually as well. I think Magnum had probably lower value that I was expecting even than Mystic. I don't know what the stats were like between the two of them, but when I was watching Magnum, I was noticing more of the just limpness from him, even more than Mystic. But I think as an overall team, that's where the choke came through. And the reason that I say that is because they were always reacting to what Gentlemates did. They were always scrambling to deal with something and getting caught out by the pace and by the opportunism that was on display. Like the plays that they would go for was so fast. Like they spot an opening, immediately they're popping a flash and Takis is dashing in or something like that. And it was just catching these guys off guard because I think Apex were expecting more respect and a slower pace of game. And then they just started fumbling because they couldn't keep up with what was occurring. I don't think it was the case that the whole system's working well, but their players are whiffing. They just were
Yeah,
not
and I think
quite able to
I think
keep
it
up.
sounded like that when I just called out Mystic by name, but genuinely, I think it was more so just credit to Gentlemates where they've been able to. They had an upswing in form, like the uptick in their all their form together for sure. Their game plans were great, like you said, they were jumping on opportunities. But from what I watched, it seemed like it was night and day compared to the earlier matches.
I feel like we're
that's an
assuming
important
though.
quality.
Yeah, but I feel like we're assuming that they're going to survive the off season. Is this not is this not a team primed for Karmine Corp to throw the bag at them and try and rip them to pieces?
I think people have got this so wrong. I think this year has kind of baited people into things. People think that off season is longer than it is because this year we had lock-in, but next year it'll start earlier because we're having a full split. But also another thing that's got loads of teams. Anyone who's not making champs will probably make a change. That's just like a start, at least one change, if not multiple changes.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of those tier 2 players are going to get picked up. Ento's going to get picked up. Probably Mystic will get picked up by someone. And then the thing is as well, after the first split next year, we have the transfer window. Right? No teams used that this year because it was lock-in and you lost one game. And so it's like, well, it's one game. Right? But next year it'll be a full split. And it's like if you've, like, let's take, like if you finish with 1 win or 0 wins next year, you're going to be picking up the best tier 2 players. So for like, whoever are the best tier 2 players, like at the start of next year, they're going to get a much greater chance because teams will make changes next year.
But that's not quite what I'm asking. What I'm asking is during the next 4 months, are Gentlemates going to get picked to pieces and poached?
I don't know,
because they don't
protection.
have
I
any
thought there was
protection.
rules against that, wasn't it? Don't you have to keep
not
not
as
the
far as-
protections in place.
Not as far as I'm aware. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they updated it, but the last I heard was that the organization gets a spot and there aren't any protections again that the players have to be in. Because otherwise, think about it. If the contracts ended at the end of this year for Gentlemates and they were renegotiating and they had to be kept under contract and the league mandated you must keep these guys under contract, the players could just be like, well, I'm not going to play unless you pay me 300K.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, exactly.
And then the league is mandating that you keep them on the roster. So I don't believe that there are strict protections like that in place because it wouldn't work with the org having control of the spot.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think there are chances for teams like Karmine Corp to try and steal a Bayaz, for example, and throw the bag at him. And
You're
see
saying that as if
they can
Karmine
do
Corp is
that.
not going to win LCQ and go on a run at champions.
and just keep their roster.
Yeah, why would they make a
Actually,
roster change?
The best case scenario for Gentlemates is Karmine Corp going on a run at champs so they don't make any changes.
Actually, yes, true.
I mean, the
I
best
still
case scenario
think-
for them is that they get the bag from whoever.
But then it depends because the Gentlemates players might be like, well,
Well, they're sponsored by
we
Aldi.
know
Who's
this
to
team
say
is
they're not
good
making-
as we are. I assume.
Yeah, but do they know that they're good? Or is that doubt of like, we just
do
went
they
on
think
a
that
run?
Karmine Corp are good?
Great point.
Yeah, if you're a competitor, why would you want to go to
Like,
Karmine
okay,
Corp?
if Fnatic came for one of their players and said, "We'll start you," I'm sure that they would consider it.
yeah.
But talking about Karmine Corp,
Yeah, but you're also
the
assuming that that this org isn't going to shell out the bag to keep their players. Like from
Sure.
my limited understanding, it's like a big content creator org that I think has a reason if they've already invested this much of a sunk cost into getting a team into the league that now that they have like a spot and incentive to go crazy, that I feel like they're probably going to pay as much as they can to keep their players. I don't know how deep the pockets go, but if I'm owning that org, I'm like, okay, this is my opportunity to really build this and commit to these players.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the bracket then, because I want to see what we think about the LCQ bracket. So I want to go back to LCQ just for a moment for EMEA before we move on to talking Americas. And the Giants Karmine Corp game is going on at the moment. So we've got prime chance to look like fools here. Are we all just assuming that Giants are by default the better team?
Surely.
Because I've got to go there.
It's been, on paper, but also
Brad.
everything. No. I'm just saying.
I swear that last time I was on Josh, we picked him.
LCQ has been a lesson in, hello, these teams have been given a month and a half. Anything can fucking happen.
Yeah, Giants. Giants can be good.
You cannot say with your chest that any of these are guaranteed, but sure, like if we're going off of, but remember, Giants kind of had a bit of a downturn in their own performance because when Esports got taken out of the pool midway through, that was one of their best maps. They didn't really shore it up with anything else, in my opinion, when I was watching. So maybe they've shored up the map pool now. Who the fuck knows? It's LCQ, baby! 2 months off!
I made a bet with Arten. Can't even remember the terms of it, but I was so confident because it was that Karmine Corp weren't going to make the grand finals. And now with Na'Vi playing like they are, I mean, I'm worried, man. I'm worried.
There's a
After
team
what
that I
you
was
saw-
talking about might make changes as well. What if Na'Vi just bomb out?
Yeah.
Changes are coming to Na'Vi.
Yeah.
But yeah, Giants will win. No way, Karmine Corp, right? No way they win.
You want to say everybody here say with our chests?
I can't say it with my chest. No, I can't.
I'll say it with my chest. Giants
will.
are going to beat Karmine Corp.
Giants will beat Karmine Corp.
Yeah, I'll say it.
I really want a Koi Karmine Corp upper final. I would do anything for that. I would do anything.
Karmine Corp Koi.
God, it'd be so good. Okay, so then, what's everyone's feeling on Na'Vi? I mean, TMV, you're the only one that actually watched the full game as well. Are you just expecting them to lose straight away to like Karmine Corp, or do they at least? Let's assume Karmine Corp lose this match. Do Na'Vi progress to the lower final and make top 3?
Now that you're saying to me, can I really see Na'Vi losing these games when they really need to win? Surely they just play normal comps and stop trolling. Surely.
But they played the normal comp in the map 1.
Well,
and they still
yeah.
lost. They didn't win a single
But
attacking
Koi
round.
actually looked good, is the thing. But they might have to beat. If Giants are good, they're in trouble. Like if Giants
Right.
are actually playing well, I think they're in trouble.
But there's no way for us to know that because we haven't
Yeah,
seen
but we
Giants
can't
play
know
in
that right
so
now.
long. I mean, when was the
Yeah.
last time they played? They played 2 months ago was the last time we saw
Yeah.
Giants.
EMEA
Bloody hell.
playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, and they played
saying,
against
2 months,
Na'Vi.
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
it's
don't know what
ridiculous.
to expect.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough
Who
then.
knows?
Fair enough. I mean, yeah. It is
Koi
a
are going there,
wild
though.
world out there.
I'll say this: I think Koi will make it. Off what I just saw.
Do you guys think Karmine Corp going out in 2?
They're winning LCQ.
Yes.
Like, not going out in
yes.
2 because they've just won.
Yes,
but do you
I think
they,
Karmine
do you think
Corp are
they're losing
going
this
out in
match or
2
losing
now.
the next match?
I think they're taking 2 L's and going out of the tournament, but I can't be confident about that. And I also thought that about Crew right as they started going on a
Yeah.
run. And so I don't know what to think. I don't know. You know what? I feel like I have just been put into a different world. I feel like ever since we took the sponsorship with Freeze Pipe, the world has just been turned upside down, and I've just been ripping cool clouds that have fuzzed up my entire brain and changed my perception of everything. Speaking of sponsor for this episode, they're back, baby. Freeze Pipe.
That's a transition.
Let's do it now. We might as well. So you can use code Esports for 10% off your entire order at thefreezepipe.com. So if you're interested in learning what the world looks like through a totally different lens, FreezePipe makes a unique line of freezable pipes, bubblers, and bongs that cool their smoke by over 300 degrees, which is a lot of degrees. They say smoking a freeze pipe is like putting ice cubes in your bong if those ice cubes took steroids and played baseball in the 90s, which apparently that was an incredible era to watch baseball with, like, Barry Bonds just absolutely whacking it out of the park. So yeah, that I feel like that's what LCQ has been like too. Maybe we should be doing checks on the players that have been suddenly turning it around, but that's a topic for another time. The secret to freeze pipe is the freezable glycerin chambers that come on every piece, and after a quick freeze, shove them in your freezer. The glycerin chambers dramatically chill the smoke for a refreshing and easy on the body toke. So you can say goodbye to harsh smoke forever and shop the smoothest pipes, bubblers, bongs, dab rigs, and more at thefreezepipe.com using code esports for 10% off your entire order. That is thefreezepipe.com with code esports. Order today and enjoy free shipping and everyday great prices. And this has got to be the most perfect sponsor, I feel, for the madness that has been LCQ. I really feel like I'm in a different timeline.
Wait,
I feel absolutely
speaking
in a
of,
different timeline.
Karmine Corp's on the freeze pipe. I'm looking. I just pulled up VLR. Their comp for this game. They've been cooking on Pearl. They're running Phoenix Sky, Astra Harbor, Killjoy.
I'm all in.
I think Harbor Astra is base.
Giants are
I
playing
really like
Cypher.
that idea.
Lucky Cypher.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
so
if I
weird.
fuck with the double flash, no dive.
That is
I
so
think
bizarre.
Phoenix is all right because teams
Phoenix
will
is
grant
good.
you a lot of
Give me a
extremity control
screen
on Pearl.
Phoenix, yeah.
The
Yeah, I mean, I
Phoenix-
guess
I don't
with
hate
the
Phoenix
changes
that
too, you
much.
don't need dive as much. I actually think they might be cooking with this one.
I think this is kind of cooking, but what you have to do is you need to be playing aggressive post plants. Are they starting on the attack side? Because it was molding me out of control watching.
Oh God, dude!
What?
When they were playing on Haven and just retreating down C long on their post plants, all 4 of them or 5 of them just scurrying down there and just having no
Karmine Corp
contingencies for anything else.
They love playing offside post plants, and also what I was going to bring up was 100 Thieves. When 100 Thieves were playing the Omen Harbor on this map, and they didn't have the Viper and they don't have the pull. I mean, at least these guys have the pull to be able to play with, but still, it is not a great post plant. Yeah, I want to see him playing aggressive post plants. Play for secret control.
Let's
Play
go
back
back to
the spike down first.
Let's talk Americas. I want to get regular
let's
updates
move
on this.
on.
as
All
we
right,
go.
okay. Yeah, we'll check back in with the Giants Karmine Corp game and see how utterly gooped up we are. All right, let's move on then. Let's talk Crew. I feel like Crew have stolen the show in my heart for the entirety of LCQ, but I'm just waiting for another team to do it. Like, obviously, it looks like Koi are going to do this, do the same by the look of things. But literally, Crew are on the verge of winning LCQ. They look like the favorites right now because they're going to have the double map ban advantage in the grand finals, and they've beaten everybody that's been put in front of them. The only team they haven't played against is like Sen and 100 Thieves, and those teams just ended up bombing out anyway. What the hell is this run?
I can tell you exactly what's going to happen.
Okay.
This bracket from this point on. But what do you want to talk about Crew first?
No, you can tell us if you know.
Should we play
if you
the
know what's
video?
happening in the bracket.
Yeah, let's
play the
play the video that started this all.
Let me pull it up real quick. All right, here's the video that started it all.
I do love a good confident Josh take.
Not a good narrative to overcome 10 straight losses.
Because even if they overcome it, they're just going out the tournament anyway, so they're not accomplishing anything by winning. Yeah, what, you get your pity win over MIBR and then you
What
go
if they go on a run?
Go on a run!
That was going to be...
The 0-9 team is gonna go on a run. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I doubled down as well. I mean, the clown costume was so fitting, I think, because I doubled down on it.
Why is it
I
not a
saw
good narrative to...
I saw the
Day
previous
2 of
win rates.
Americas, you literally, it was day 3. They had beaten 2 teams. We did a hot take segment, and yours was just, they're gonna fucking lose, it's over, Crew sucks,
Yeah.
fraudulent win, fraudulent team. You're such a hater. Is this not the moment, Judge, to turn around your psyche and bring joy into your life? And believe?
Can I explain as well? I'd looked at their games in the past against Leviatan, and Leviatan had won 7 straight maps against them. Crew had not beaten them since June of last year, and I was like, okay, even if Crew are playing really well right now, and even if Leviatan are in a little bit of a slump, I think that they've just got their number. You know, it's just like the LATAM rivalry. They've got a read on the team. They're confident when they play them. They're going to be able to beat them. I mean, that did not work at all. Completely the opposite. And then the next day, I was like, I was in the green room and I'm watching Crew play against Cloud9. And Dryad is there, who's the LATAM translator and does broadcast stuff as well. And she's rooting, obviously, for the Crew run to continue. And I'm rooting for Cloud9 to end this fucking fiasco. And it's map 1. And I'm like, okay, let me readdress. I'm still sticking to my guns. They played against a team with a coach. They played against a team with a stand-in. And they played against Leviatan in horrible form. And I think we can all agree it was horrible form from Leviatan
Yeah,
as
it was
well.
awful.
As well as Crew playing well. So I was like, okay, this is finally them playing against a team that's good. First map happens, and it was 2-0. Crew won the pistol run, and I said to Dan, I said to Dryad, she said they're only getting 4. It was like 4-2 the scoreline, and I was like, yeah, Crew are only getting 4. And then Cloud9 just barreled through, win 13-4, and I was feeling so smug. I was sat there just smiling it up, like, this is the end for Crew. I just
Like an
was one
absolute-
match late.
Like an evil factory owner from the 1800s. He's
with a
rubbing his hands together
Twiddling his
thinking,
mustache.
"Ooh, how much profit am I going to make off of these child workers, this child labor in my factory?" Yes.
And then
Crew are out.
map 2 happens. And it's It's a 12-0 half for Crew.
Yeah.
And they were playing incredibly. Absolutely incredibly. Like, it's not just the individuals, because Kesnit did not go nuts there, but they have figured out how to take map control in a confident, aggressive manner that other teams are not able to deal with currently. And they've got great ideas of how to play against a variety of different compositions. They have protocols that are working perfectly. Like, this team has got a clue. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know when it happened. Maybe they discovered it while playing GTA in a shower one day. But they're dominating.
Yeah, I did want to
at this point, I've given up. I've given up the Doomer. This team is goated.
Yeah. I mean, for how good they are, it honestly makes you wonder, because when we talked to Crew, they were like, yeah, we took a 20-day break. Talking to the LATAM talent, they were like, yeah, Crew's gonna get rolled. They've literally only been playing like GTA on their stream and not scrimming and just vibing and going home and relaxing with their families and their girlfriends and stuff. But maybe that's the fucking key, where Leviatan was like 5 a.m. showers, pushing them, doing the SK Rossi routine. These guys just took a step back, realized, hey, that sucked. That was a shitty season. Reset themselves completely, went back in, had a good 2 or 3 weeks of practice, and just reinvented themselves.
But there's something else going on here, though, Mimi. It can't just be the vibes.
Well, I'm saying the vibes is like the catalyst to be able to actually like have the practice to improve and not feel worn out. I'm just saying, like, I feel like taking that break gave them the initial step off to then transition. Like, if the regular season was defined by, like, in every bad situation, Kesnit is inting, they're running it down, they've really harnessed that, and like you're talking about, have these really nicely set up pre-round ideas to get map control on their defensive side. Their rotates are really on point. I think in particular they've done a great job of drilling their retakes. Like their first few games when they were playing on Bind in particular with that Cypher comp, did a great job of always denying Plant, buying just enough time to get all their rotations over, and then flooding in and trading just really, really well that we never saw them doing in the regular season. Like, the fundamentals have taken such an upward swing, combined with playing the style that I think is just really hard for most teams to contend with. It's just made them look so unstoppable.
I've seen this before. I've seen this before. There's parallels here to my old life back when in the Overwatch League. Any Overwatch heads out there that remember a team called London Spitfire in 2018?
The refugees are going to be flooding through in the coming year.
Me and Josh went to go watch them scrim before the playoffs, heading into the biggest event of the year. And we watched this team scrim, and we witnessed a live implosion of a team. A monitor got punched and thrown. Me and Josh are just sat at the back and watching a bunch of Koreans just absolutely lose it and implode the team. And we watched that, and I went onto the broadcast, and I was like, yeah, I'm not predicting this team anymore. And we went completely against them. And do you know what happened? They turned up at the event. They said, guys, fuck it. It's our last chance to play together. We're probably not going to, this roster's not going to stay intact after this. We've already fucked it. Let's just have fun and play. And guess what? They fucking won the entire thing. They went on a run to the playoffs. They won the entire fucking thing. They got boomed in the first match. They went on an absolute tear and they won the whole thing. And I see the exact same thing with Crew. I see the same kind of decision making from them where they're like, we've had this the Wikipedia for the London Spitfire. Yeah, it was like a best of 3 versus Gladiators, and then they lost. They got boomed in the first match. They were playing like it was like
this is a best of 3 of matches. Yeah,
a best of 3 of best of threes for some reason. So they got boomed in the first one. We watched their scrim. A monitor got punched. A player got benched. The team imploded. They decided to have fun and whimsy, and they went on to win the entire thing. And with Crew, I think that them taking a break seriously is a massive, massive difference maker, because you got to think these players have been living in a foreign country for God knows how many weeks now. They're in a Norton 9 season. They know that their roster's going to break up. They know that their roster's done. They know it's the last chance, and you might as well just let loose a little bit. And sometimes that's all you need. We have not seen performances like this out of Nags and Klaus in such a long time, and genuinely, it could have just been a mixture of those circumstances, of the pressure of having to perform. And like suddenly when it's freeing, when you know your back's against the wall, you've got to perform no matter what. Some players, some teams just turn up. They just fucking turn up.
You know what my hot take was going to be? So I had a hot take that got rejected because production thought it was too hot or like too disrespectful, I suppose. And so my original so the one that I had said on the broadcast was that they're going 0-2. They're not going to get more than 10 rounds. The original one that I came up with was crew fans should want their team to lose so that they make the correct roster decisions for the next season. Because I think that the more you do well in LCQ, the more likely they are to keep on players like Nags and Klaus, who then, after a hot run, I don't really have faith in them like keeping this up forever. I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore, because I've seen that as well, where teams go on a run towards the end of the season. I mean, you could think about like 100 Thieves last year. Their expectations got inflated massively because they did really well at LCQ. They won the entire thing. It was a bit of a like pop-off tournament run, and then they didn't make any roster. Well, they made one roster move after that.
Changed their coaching staff and cryo. Like, I feel like that's somewhat.
Well, they didn't change their coaching staff deliberately. They just lost Sean.
Yeah, that
true. Wasn't that wasn't a deliberate.
But I mean, it was a
change to get better.
That happened.
Right, but it was forced upon them.
I just said it was a change.
Sure, okay, but I don't think it fits it doesn't fit my point of like the idea being that success stops you from making roster moves.
The
that would have been
intentional roster move
you.
you want to do.
And like ZETA, for example, ZETA went on such a good run at Reykjavik that they didn't make moves afterwards, and didn't make moves even in that later off season, trying to recatch that former glory that was just an impossible dream for them, essentially, coming third at another Masters event with this roster. And yet they got kind of baited into it. I am a bit concerned that this is just going to be anarchy within the crew. Like, you've got to imagine that they already had the contract, the like signed agreement to terminate Klaus and Nags from the team already. Like, that was a guaranteed slam dunk at the end of this year. They were so poor.
I have
now, who
some
knows?
theory. So Riot
they might
produced,
have just saved their jobs.
Riot produced like one of those like preset videos. I think it's like called Unstoppables or something, where they interviewed with like Sergio Aguero and like talked about the team and like when they were like doing really bad. And like a lot of the interview was like predicated on like him comparing like what Crew was doing to some of his experience in like his career playing professional sports. That like these things happen, that like you need to give players time, that like it just sometimes takes like taking a break, resetting, and just like coming back stronger to be able to do that. And that he has so much faith in the boys.
Professional footballer.
But I believe it. I believe the PR. I bought into
to Man
it.
City and they just buy everyone and win the league.
I mean, this is like the Man City run.
It's a great video. We might run it on broadcast, but find it, viewers. It's fantastic. It has like how many views?
I'm
like
sure it is
2,000 views, and it's like extremely well produced.
But it is interesting.
But also,
I'm
doesn't
sure you're
control
right.
the roster.
I know.
He's not
I
in
was just
charge
pointing.
of that.
I was just putting it out there that he believed. No one else believed. The owner, who was probably just saying PR answers, believed in the PR answer. So that makes me believe that Crew is the best team in the world. Who cares if it's biannual? You every 2 years you get a run. The Crew fans will watch for the rest of the time. Like yes, they're gonna go on a run this time. They go 0-9. That's okay. Next tournament, they get their one run every 2 years. Everyone freaks out, and they go back to being bad. And that's fine.
You win
In an
every
ideal
LCQ,
world,
you get the champs money.
Yeah. In an ideal world, like the perfect roster is one that's really cheap and inconsistent, so that it doesn't cost very much to run, and you get all of the excitement without having to have the expectations. So you get the like crazy ups and downs. The fans are into you. The fans,
Every
like,
win
you
is a
create
big moment.
stories. Yeah.
And that also goes to the point of just like the fan reactions to this have been incredible. Like the guys with the giant Crew banner have just been in the studio every day, fucking losing their minds, screaming. It was, I forget which NA team, I think it was against Cloud9. Everyone there's a Cloud9 fan. Everyone there's from the US. And then there's just like these 5 guys fucking screaming louder than like banshees every time Crew win a round, going crazy, screaming for the 13-0, popping off. It's just so cool to see. Like, honestly, I love Crew because every 2 years you get one of these crazy moments. You get one of these runs that just like inspires you, and it's so sick for the fans and for them. And I honestly hope they just keep it going and win it, and they probably will with the double ban advantage in their current form.
But I think also we should give credit to their coach as well. Can you just pull up round 6 from Haven against Cloud9? Is that possible?
And this is the coach that just came in for this year.
Yeah, and like their game plan here against Cloud9 and Haven, I just thought was amazing. Right, they're playing a weird comp. They're playing Chamber Killjoy to start. Right, so they're already kind of out there. Right, and often you'll see Navi are great examples of comps. It's weird, but it doesn't work. Right, but Crew, this was great. And look, they contact walked up a lot. right? And they don't have a lot of utility to take sites, right? So they did this, and it's amazing to me how, you know, you're talking about it's, you know, vibes is kind of the main thing. And I kind of agree, but there's also, look at the little things they do here, right? Where they give Kesnet the spike. They know that they've got a Killjoy lockdown Cloud9. They know that Cloud9 like to play for fast retakes. So they get the spike down. They give Kesnet the spike midway through there so that he can get his ult. Now they all go off site. You know, they managed to get out of that utility, not get destroyed by Cloud9's fast retakes, which they were consistently doing. And then now they've got, because they've contact walked up, they've got a Raze nade. They've got Raze ult. They've got Killjoy nanos. They've got 2 Astra Stars on the spike. Like, their plans for these rounds were so good. And like, it's crazy that like all these small things, like, you know, Crew couldn't even do the basics right for the regular season. And now they're doing like little tiny things that, you know, only like the very best teams, you know, would think to like, oh, quick, give Kesnet we need Raze ult for this because they're going to Killjoy lockdown us and we're going to have to play offsite. Like, little
Melzer
things
is
like that.
IGLing, and I think he deserves a ton of credit too. Because remember that they swapped the IGL from Klaus to Melzer, and as far as I'm aware, that's carried on. And he's also been in good individual form too. That's a major acquisition that they got from Leviatan. I mean, we were thinking that Leviatan had won the trade kind of situation in LATAM. But, you know, at the end of the year, maybe we'll reflect on that and it won't be the case. We'll have to see. The other part too is that I think I kind of want to move on to discussing Cloud9. Now, I want to return back to talking about Sentinels and 100 Thieves in a bit, but I wanted to jump ahead a little bit because we were just discussing that match against Cloud9. And I was unimpressed with what they did. So to use your example of the round that you just showed, that contacty round, one of the things I hated that Cloud9 weren't doing on that final map was that, you're right, Crew don't have very much utility to fight for map control. And yet Cloud9 are playing so far back on the map. They're not fighting for forward areas. They're not challenging them early. They're not trying to bleed them out and, you know, fight one choke back off, fight a rolling retreat kind of style. They're playing like straight up to what they were going for. They were flanking on the retakes against a double Sentinel setup that always knows where you are. Like, something within Cloud9 failed here, and I don't know who it was, but the idea generation failed. And I know that MCE was extraordinarily unhappy with how his team played in this match. He had an interview with Esports GG that I linked where he was just fucking cursing and blinded. I mean, maulding about how his team performed in this match.
I love this round as well, though. Look at the trust that Crew have. They literally have just Melzer is just watching Garage, and then they've just got Klaus is just watching for this A-lug right there. Right? They just have complete trust that, oh, with an Astral and 3 players, we're going to retake this site. Don't you worry about it. Like, just complete trust in their teammates. They were playing so well, but yeah, to Cloud9's point, I think that particularly on that third, I mean, they almost lost 13-0, and they should have. Leaf won a 1v3 to not get 13-0'd on that pistol round. So they almost got 13-0'd, and then I think that they just must have gone into a mental hibernation state because they just, like you said, they didn't adapt. It's like they played like as if they were playing against a normal team with a normal comp where they can go for those fast flood retakes and haha, everyone dies whilst you're planting the spike. We win again. And you know, Crew just came with a game plan that countered that very hard, and it seemed like they just didn't adapt to what was going on, and maybe they were just a bit mentally stunned.
It's shocking too, because normally they're the team that I like watch in Americas the most, and even I think I saw in like their first game where it was like, okay, these are the guys that are just like so good at just like adapting at the fly, of always like having someone who's like tracking ults, coming up with that next idea. Like, it does seem like there might be something just like mental here for Cloud9 that is just like crumbling in these big games, because it is very reminiscent in just the sheer drop off in form to what happened at the end of the Americas regular season for them. And now it's kind of that question of like, can they actually recover in the lower bracket? Because honestly, the Crew game, the last 2 maps were pretty dreadful. Like, it looked completely unlike them.
But they won the first map 13-4. That's what makes this even crazy.
It's so strange.
Wasn't the EG game where they just didn't turn up and EG destroyed them?
Yes.
Didn't they do this exact thing in the playoffs? Am I misremembering this? I thought Cloud9 started really strong in the playoffs and won the
NRG game.
Well, the EG game, they just got destroyed.
Was it the NRG game?
But then they kind of slowly...
Pull up the NRG game.
That one ended... They didn't get rolled in that, though. It ended in a crazy OT.
They got destroyed by EG.
That game was actually not that bad from Cloud9. It was really just the EG game that was just really awful.
They just didn't turn up,
yeah.
But I mean, that's exactly the team that MCE compares it to in this interview that he did with Brandon Moore. He said that Crew, he scrimmed against them a lot, and they feel like EG 2.0, where everything they're doing is working. I also think he's got a quote later on that I thought was incredibly insightful, where he said, we're trying to change things when we have a very set way to do things in the first couple rounds, and we're completely choking these situations. We don't remember one key thing. We don't notice one key difference. We don't think about what's happening. So if we don't get on a roll, we're just cratering at times where it's just unbelievable to me to watch at this point. Like, oh my God. Dear. I mean, he's really going for the hard-ass approach to try and make his players realize that they've got to step up. But I'm intrigued as to who it is that's letting this fall to pieces, because I feel like Leaf looked excellent in terms of what he was doing in their LCQ run so far. He looked like he was in control, hitting that top form, calling for utility the right times, following it. Maybe it was a bit of a drop-off from him, but it's hard to know. Zelsis is always a really good communicator and always a good team leader, so I would be super surprised if Zelsis was letting the ball drop, but possible. And then it just comes down to like the newer guys and maybe Zeppa, who had a really horrible match here and completely fell off. But just because Zeppa didn't play well individually doesn't mean that he's like messing up the calling. It sounds like the calling is fucking up. Like they're just losing their heads and
wasn't this the game though where there was a ton of team flashes? I think there was. I think Zeppa had a pretty off game, and you say it's not an individual performance thing, but when you're setting up a player like Leaf as well, I think that it's important. Your Sky, honestly, the current meta where Sky is becoming the dominant initiator player, I think you have the most important role in the game in some instances, because if you are cocking up your util or not using it correctly, you're changing the tide of the match of rounds if you mess it up at times. I seem to remember Zeppa wasn't having a good game overall, not just his aim, not just the shooting, not just the stats. Like if you watch it, I thought that the flashes weren't that good.
Right. Sorry, I'm just continuing to read this interview. It's unbelievable. We talked about very specific things we wanted to do to try to counter different things, and we didn't do a fucking single thing of it. We talked about how to counter certain things or try certain things, and then we didn't fucking do it. So I don't know what to say.
I think,
holy shit, Matt.
In my head, I've built up a narrative that Cloud9 just, unless this core 3 players perform up to a really high standard like we saw from the regular season. I've said this over and over again of Zelsis, Zeppa, and Leaf. The rookie players, I mean, I call them rookie players. They've got plenty of experience at this point on the big stage, but I just think they don't have big game experience, and I think that they fall short in those big moments when it gets to the playoffs. And I do wonder now, like, is it going to require like an absolute deadlift level performance from the 3 of them as well, as we're heading now? They're in the lower bracket. There's no more chances into this one. Are we going to see a similar kind of fall off? Because when MCE is discussing in that article and he's saying we discussed all these ideas and we didn't do any of them, to me that reads as a classic like freeze up in the moment. You're getting too locked on.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong things because you're too worried about the pressure of performing in this match.
That's just like the EG game from the regular season.
I mean,
like,
this round's a good example as well,
like
where they run into like a stacked C site. They try and TP to C, A site. Sorry, they try to TP to C. That Melsa's there. Watch Zeppa now. Just run into Garage. Like he's just gonna.
Oh yeah,
this
they still have a minute on the clock here.
Yeah,
that is not a good play. But also the fact that they're not keeping any presence over towards A at all because they didn't break the Seekers. The Seekers chased them out. You saw all of the Seekers exit A lobby, so you know that Cloud9 don't have a single player still lurking on A. They make the decision making very simple here for Crew because they're getting flustered.
They still should probably win this round, to be fair, because Jake gets 2 kills in a second. But to me, like you're saying all this, I'm going to ask you all a question right now. So get ready. Do you think Cloud9 are still the favorites to win this tournament?
No.
Crew is.
Really?
I think.
You think Crew are the favorites?
If Crew did not have double map ban in the grand finals, then I could see Cloud9 picking it back up and winning the tournament. Because this was such a rough performance from C9 that if they managed to rebound through the lower final and make it to the grand final, I could see them having a much better performance this time around. But I think that double map veto is just so brutal to get through. So brutal.
Yeah. My take on it is I don't I don't have faith on Cloud9 in these playoff runs. I think just because what I said prior about two of the players on their team, Rooney, Jake, they don't have experience in these big matches, and already we're seeing the core members underperform in some instances. But the other competitor, who would it be? Like, I mean, Crew and Lev. I have a ton of questions that I want answered on this one. I think the break going to affect the momentum of Crew, because they seemed like the form of Kesnet was important to a degree to them getting wins, not so much in the one against Cloud9, because actually Kesnet wasn't like dropping fucking giga numbers, but they were still winning because they had good ideas.
It's a great point. They've played 4 days in a row, and then they
4
have
days
a
in a row.
4-day
Now you
break.
have a break, a big break in it, right? And if you're thinking
Back to GTA.
yeah, back to GTA, they need to get the practice in there or something in the RP servers, and then Lev as well as a team, because I just had absolutely no faith at all in Lev. We'll probably talk about them a bit later, but they had one match where they looked good and back to that old form, but that's not enough of a sample size for me. I'm actually down to transition this into Leviatan now. Let's talk about Lev, because in the context, we'll keep talking about Cloud9 in the context of playing against Leviatan. I want to reply back with a question here, right? If Cloud9 are not the favorites, there's still a degree between them, like winning, being competitive, and choking completely. And in those final 2 maps we saw the choke completely. Does that continue in this game? Because this is elimination now. This isn't them in a situation where they, have an ability to rebound, have LCQ. This is everything on the line, big game time. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Are they
like,
going to continue to choke?
4 days is
Cloud9
pretty
win-
substantive. Like, last time they choked, they literally went from, like, losing a match to playing the next day. And even then, after the Giga Choke versus EG, last time, after the Giga Choke, they beat Leviatan in a super close match, and then they lost to NRG in a super close match. Like, in the lower bracket, in the playoffs, they went back to playing, I think, in not quite their peak, but in pretty good form in that lower bracket. So I think it is, like, it's not ridiculous to say that Cloud9 could rally and could probably be the favorite to make it back to the grand finals, because, well, Leviatan definitely recovered, and I think it looked very, very strong versus Sentinels, especially considering how tragic their game versus Crew was. Like, Cloud9 has done it before. It's literally the same bracket as last time.
I think we were just talking about the break for Crew. I think that break has come at a good time for Cloud9. So when Cloud9 do win this whole thing, I want you to just next week, when you're talking about it and I'm not here, just run that segment back. Just run back what Bren just said about Cloud9 and how they're boomed. Now they've got no chance.
There's a couple of instances. There's a couple of, I can see this going down a couple of timelines, which is Cloud9 absolutely choke completely, and Lev go back to their old form, which is, I'm not talking like when they were good.
Unlikely,
I'm talking Cloud9 choke, and also Lev look bad again. In which case we have a sloppy. We have a
There's no way.
No,
See,
not
they're not
that.
going to choke against a bad opponent. Like, I feel like Cloud9's chokes only
I
come
think
when they're
Cloud9's
getting rocked
choking,
and they
though.
can't come up with the answer.
That too, but I also think it comes down to their own expectations for themselves. During a regular season, when everybody was down on them, they were performing better than ever. When they are expected to win a lot, that's when they start to go. And
Yeah, that's
it's
not a bad
never been harder than
So
right
you're saying
now.
it's a strategic choke to have looked awful
It's not
in that last
strategic.
game.
I just think
So the expectation is lower,
Dude, I'm
so they
saying-
play well.
I'm saying this could be a sloppy game. This could
Sign
be
me up.
down in the mud. These guys are taking chunks out of each other, and I mean, and it's going to be mistakes. Josh is going to be going like there's going to be an aura of doom around the arena again from just Josh entering
I'm not working
the
this
building.
day. I'm co-streaming. I'm
You're
gonna
co-streaming?
be unleashed. I am.
yeah, he's
If
actually
this
gonna
is
be
a sloppy
unleashed.
game, I'm gonna be screaming at him.
So,
The
Bren,
alternative is
Okay.
you see Cloud9 don't choke, and you see Lev. It could go. Every permutation of this has one team rolling or the other team rolling, or the worst,
It being bad.
the worst ending, sloppy. The sloppy
okay,
game.
so in
Battle of the
your theory,
slop.
Bren, Cloud9 need to have really low expectations. They need to feel like they're not the favorite, so they can just be revitalized and come back in the lower bracket.
Yeah.
My pitch then, to help ensure that happens, is we need the few thousand people that are watching Plat Chat right now to go to Reddit, to go to Twitter, and start astroturfing. If you want Cloud9 to win, you need to say Cloud9's awful, they're dog shit, worst team in the league, they're not winning another fucking game, drop the team, get rid of them all.
Bring
And
in
once you
Yang.
do that, they're gonna fucking show up and
Yeah,
they're gonna
they
win it
actually-
all.
I genuinely think they would. If we change the community narrative, let's do a power ranking actually, real quick.
Can we
Because
just
probably
post-
doesn't have the assets for it, but let's just rate Cloud9 at the bottom of the power rankings and just post it to the subreddit, and then they will do well, I think. Then.
Oh God, I'm thinking about the map pool here, and I'm worried for Cloud9. I really am, because Cloud9 have been permabanning Bind.
Good, Josh. Very
And-
good.
What do you mean?
Keep AstroTurf and you're on the right track already.
No, this isn't an AstroTurf campaign. I'm genuinely worried. So Cloud9 have been getting rid of Bind. Leviatan just going to get rid of Ascent, which has been a good map for Cloud9 as well. It was where they ended up rolling crew. Okay, so then continuing down the maps, Leviatan's Fracture looked good against Sentinels, and Sentinels beat Cloud9 on that map too. I feel like they... Incredible power rankings. Thank you.
Screenshot it. Put it on Reddit.
Why is there
That's
an extra
good.
L in clowled?
The Welsh spelling of cloud.
The extra L is for all the L's they're going to be taking, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm concerned here because I don't. Where does Cloud9 actually get the wins? Cloud9 want to play on Pearl. Leviatan are good on Pearl, or at least they have been in the past. Maybe that's changed, but that was always at the top of their map pool this year. Then
They just got
want
12
to play on
on
Ascent.
Pearl, don't
As-
forget.
Who
Cloud9,
just, oh,
12
Cloud9.
12.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a horrible map to go towards. Then you've got Ascent is going to get banned. Bind is probably going to get banned. The other maps don't look good either for C9. Like Fracture doesn't look good. Where do they go to get the
Haven
win?
wasn't good.
Lotus maybe?
Lotus
Yeah, probably
would
go
be
back
the
to your
pick.
Lotus.
But that's
They're
like the
always
only
very good
map,
there.
isn't it? Can you think of another one where it looks
I
like
think
They're
it's
they're,
Lotus.
sent.
they're
They're
doing well
sent.
right now?
I like.
No, the level banners.
Yeah, but the Ascent is
Oh,
going to
yeah,
get
you're
banned.
right, you're
That's what I'm
right.
saying. So to me, Cloud9 not only have to have a good performance, they have to take some of the maps that they've been fucking up on and turn them around. Like they have to find the Pearl, for example, specifically. They have to go from that being, and their Haven, have to go from being poor performances against crew to being very good performances to be able to beat Leviatan. Which is, how the hell are we in this timeline where that is what it looks like?
To be fair,
'Cause-
Lev would have to pick Pearl, and then they can just pick attack side and just win, and not have to
Yeah.
play defense side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
C9's
And then
attack
just-
side did look really nice. I loved the way that they were taking space with Leaf and the dog. Anyway, let's talk Leviatan a little bit. Do you think it was a flash in the pan against Sentinels? Do you think they've got what it takes to be able to make this a double LATAM final?
I hope it wasn't, but I just have a feeling like
Yeah.
it is. I just haven't seen enough of a sample size, man. It was so
Yeah.
long ago when they were looking good, and I thought they were done, man. I thought they were going to be done in two, to be honest. When that match was coming up, I thought for sure Sentinels were going to go on a run of things. They didn't. Sentinels' attack side looked absolutely dismal. They didn't really have a clue of how to take the timings in most of those games.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought that
appalling.
their overall plans
Yeah.
were just quite bad. And Lev actually did look good as well. Like it wasn't just King showing up. It was the rest of the team. Taco was having performances like he's never had before.
Wokage.
Dude, Taco actually just woke up. Like the GTA reflexes kicked in or something, man. I don't know. But just he started hitting. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just again that barrier, your back's against the wall, you realize that this is it. You gotta step up now that you're in the lowers that just unlock the team. But I like to believe my headcanon is that owner just took them out for ice cream afterwards, after they lost.
They really
And then
needed
they
it.
just had a nice little break. Like, yeah. And it was like a softening moment, and like like a family movie where there's like you're the stern stoic father, and they finally earn their respect and attention, and the father softens up a little
Your
bit. And he's
first
like,
ever hug
treats
from your
them.
dad
Yeah,
at
the
the end
first
of the
ever
movie.
hug from your dad. That's what I remind. That's what I think the
Yeah,
moment
but
was
also,
like.
your headcanon, you know it to be false because we were playing scrims and Lev were VOD reviewing for like 2 or 3 hours.
Literally, like,
after
until we
the
left.
match finished.
Like they were there
Yeah.
until like 10 or 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah,
was,
so
they
you
were
know that they
grinding.
didn't go out for
They
ice
didn't
cream. You
get
know
ice
that they were
cream.
doing VOD review. You just want that to be true.
They didn't get ice cream.
I mean, I also
Did they
think
have
this
ice cream
game.
during the VOD review?
No,
I don't think
Possibly.
they
so.
didn't.
We-
They
we
did
didn't
not. I
look at
can
them.
confirm they did not have ice cream.
Oh.
I feel like this game also was like an overperformance from some players. Like Shy is not going to have that first half of Fracture he had every time. Like Sentinels was looking tragic, and every time they hit Shy's side, he was just killing like 3-4 people. Like there was some ridiculous individual moments from him.
Yeah,
But also things that do give me joy for Leviatan is I feel like the structure was back. Like they're actually doing a really good job of trading. Taco was pretty good towards the end of the series, but he still had some rougher moments, and they always did a good job of following up off of him, of trading him out well. And Mazzino also seems to be getting out of his slump, which was, I think, a big rough point for them at the end of the season, because this guy's normally goated anchoring, and I think we were seeing more of that again in this series. But again, it's against the Sentinels that I thought looked in really quite poor form, so it just doesn't give me a huge amount of confidence that Leviatan is going to take that and make a run out of things here. Like,
I think it should be a close game. Like, I'm hoping it's a fun, close game, because I think the map.
Yeah.
I think the map pool is like good for Leviatan. I think Cloud9 can win that match. Like, it's definitely in their power to be able to win, and just comes down to whether they turn up or whether MCE is going to actually have a heart attack live on the coach cam.
Yeah, well, it's going to be.
I mean, Lev be a team who don't know how to attack. So
I mean, let's talk Sentinels, shall we? So before we transition into the topic of you know what? Let's go for it.
We got 30 more minutes. It's all for Sentinels.
Let's start with the battle of the mid. Sentinels and 100 Thieves both bomb out of the tournament in as quick fashion as they possibly could, only beating the other. So let's start with Sentinels. My God, this team looked disastrous in the game against Leviatan.
Yeah.
So poor.
The 100 Thieves one was fun, but this game here, like, they got off to that hot start on Fracture, and then they just shit the bed. Like, the string of rounds on Fracture that they ended up losing was absurd. And honestly, the big turning point was like those big shy clutches. I do wonder in what world where Sentinels, their confidence doesn't get knocked after losing this first map, where, you know, Marv doesn't die when he's watching the smoke for Shy to come through in the back. And
he should have had that
getting a 4K. Should have had that one, right? It was an unfortunate coin flip, but that's Valorant, baby. Listen, that's Valorant. Inconsistency sometimes. Listen, that's Valorant. And so, yeah, maybe it'll be a different world, but you can't think like that. You just got to look at what we saw. And what we saw was a massive downturn and downswing of their performance after that point. And on map 2, map 3, they really didn't look good at all. I think that the team, we gave them time now, which was the one thing that we kept iterating when we were watching them play, both of these teams, was that it needed time, because it just been a game of musical chairs, fucking around with the rosters, coaching changes, sometimes not enough coaches in the case of 100 Thieves, and role swaps galore, honestly, with Sentinels. But we've given them the time of day. Listen, they played well, they just couldn't quite convert it. Apparently they were playing quite well in scrims, but that's scrims, you know? It's how you convert it on the big stage.
They were just doing the same thing over and over, and what they were actually doing on their attack rounds was garbage. I mean, the round, what sticks in my head is because Sean did a breakdown of it. Is it this one? Yeah, it was. It was this round that Sean did a breakdown of. And the double duelist just sends it into sight. They have no B main control. They don't have any way of being able to hold on to control of stairs. It makes no sense. I mean, the players could watch this back, and they would be so disappointed if they looked at this in a VOD review. So how on earth is this the game plan that you come up with 4 world champions on the team, and none of those players are your best player? Like, this squad is, in theory, full of experience and should not be making terrible calls like this. But whether it's the lack of the IGL leading to things getting scrambled and nobody having, like, that job of making sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, or whether it's because they came into this map with a fuck you attitude. I mean, we heard what Kaplan said, right? This is the last time we give them respect. We're just going to take it to them. I mean, it seemed like Sentinels took that kind of feeling and just turned it into holding W. Yeah. Like, we're just gonna run around and do random shit.
Also, I think Lev played really goddamn well. Like, this round in particular, one of the things that wasn't pointed out, when we were casting it, I wanted to point it out as well, but this was so damn close. It was like the 0.06 diffuse that I didn't have time, because we were just talking about the reaction of it. But Lev's entire approach to the round, you know how teams on Ecos usually stack. This is so smart. They usually stack onto a site, and Sen did the right approach of just poking, trying to see where their opponents were. And then they went into the site here once they didn't see anything, because they thought, oh, they've stacked onto the other side of the map. Lev were just holding a bit further back into Staircase. And then they chose the exact right timing in between when the Duelist committed. Admittedly, Duelist shouldn't have committed inting into the site when the Trailblazer had already cleared it out. But I think that Lev showed, like, all those little moments now that we missed from them over the course of the regular season. That the little adaptations, the little things that they think about, like whether it's, you know, Level 1 are the first teams that I can think of as well that you used to chase down eco frags on players that needed ultimates. They were one of the first teams to actually do that, to think about like min-maxing even rounds on their ecos when they won a pistol round, to try and snowball advantages like that. And I saw glimpses of that in this game here. But yeah, doesn't detract from the fact that then shit the bed.
Yeah, I think to me the big thing in this game was just like when you watch both teams attack, like Kurt, if you go to like round 13, Lev's first pistol round, it's like a great example where they start off towards A Leviatan, which Sentinels were doing a lot as well. You see a lot of it with this meta comp on split, like going towards ramp and vents. But like then they have Mazzino lurk up B heaven and Lev pivot to B instead. That's the kind of thing that Sentinels just did not have, right? Their attack side was, let's go towards ramp, you know, we'll go, and then we'll see what happens, I guess. Like, you know, they didn't have that, like, well, here's our second layer if that goes wrong, right? Like, here's what we'll do if, you know, things don't go right. They just didn't seem to have that, and I thought that the contrast was stark, that it's, like, the same idea, but there was multiple instances of this where Lev had some kind of pivot, some kind of idea if their first one didn't go right? Or they knew what to do if something didn't go right. Whereas Sentinels, it just looked like, oh, things didn't go right.
They cut their IGL, TMV. They cut their IGL in the middle of the season.
Part of it. But
yeah, I think that's probably a pretty fucking big part of it, is that they don't have an IGL. Marv's not a caller, and it's incredible to me. I mean, the other thing too is, listen to this stat, okay? Attack side first kill rate. I was talking about this in the Sentinels games, both of the ones that we casted, because it was so dreadful. Their attacking first kill rate was something like 38% over the course of the regular season, which is just abominably poor. Like, there's no other teams that are anywhere near to that. Like, the bad teams are normally somewhere around like 45. Like, normally there's about a 5% swing with your first kill rates. And in this match, they had less than 20% of the attacking first kills. They went 4 and 17 in attack side first kills because their game plans are poo, because when they run into areas, they're not supported very well, because Tens isn't a very good duelist player, and also because Sassy Sky is not it. I mean, I don't understand really how or why, but the difference between Sassy Breach, Sassy Sova, and Sassy Sky is just incredibly large. What boggled my mind too is, you come back off the back of this, and I was looking at, you know, did we miss anything for the run of show on Reddit? And people are posting threads. Hot take: Sentinels should not make a roster move in the next off season. And people are in the comments agreeing with that, saying it's a cold take, and they should just give them more time. The time to give them more time was when they had an IGL and functioning roles. The time to give them more time is not when they don't have a system and they have no fucking setup for what they're doing. The roles make no sense. They have 2 controller players, no sentinel player. Pancada's been playing badly all season because he's on a completely different role. It doesn't work.
Yeah, but it didn't make a substantive change in the team, I don't think. Like,
I think it did. I think with the way the Sentinels played, I think Sassy's calling was pretty important for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying they should have stuck
the initiator position
to having Sassy
better
on smokes.
Oh, yeah, no,
but they should have never moved Def to initiator in the first place.
Yes,
Def should have been locked in Sentinel jail, putting up 3 kills a half and letting the rest of his team carry him while he calls.
Yeah.
And now that ship sailed. He's off to Counter-Strike. So if Sentinels need to be dropping the bag for John Cutie is really the person that they need to be looking towards. The Sentinel IGL is absolutely necessary.
There's a gulf in IGLs. There's a deficit of IGLs, and you got to pick them up. It's one of the core problems of a lot of teams.
Here's my thing though.
To rebuild.
Maybe they just teach Tens Portuguese and go full Portuguese instead.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Josh. I think the team in its current form, it doesn't make sense. I don't think they're gonna make a roster change, because I think if I'm Rob Moore Esports, I see the engagement I'm getting with every game from my team. I see the false hope, the thousands of fans in Sentinels jerseys. I see people hyping up Zekin, but Marved, Pancada. I have like 4 world champions on my team. I'm not changing shit. I think Sentinels is we just need to accept that they're just going to permanently be in the dungeon of they're going to win it. They're going to win a series every once in a while. They're going to try their hardest to get better, but they are going to fundamentally not have the perfect roster. And
you might as well sign Shroud and Tarek if you want that, though.
But
Yeah,
they
you
have
actually
that.
might
The
as
thing is
well.
that they have that. They have what they want. Sen is a successful team, but for an organization. But they're not a successful team in winning in Americas. And I think
But
that's
also,
just
their
like
players aren't going to be happy with that, man. There's no shot that Sassy and Pancada are going to be happy with that. Sassy is a winner. Like, this guy is driven and, according to reports,
he's gonna be finding a
obnoxiously
loser when he has
driven to win.
15 Lamborghinis in his penthouse apartment in Los Angeles.
Not
staring
everybody
down
is
on
a
the common man.
capitalistic pig like you, Mimi.
I'm not a
Not everyone is
capitalistic
driven
pig.
by money.
I can just think. I can think like them because I hate them. Okay, I can accept it. I can accept that's the way our world works. It's fucking. We're in LA, baby. We're in LA, baby. Fucking buy another sports car. I love clout. Sentinels is beyond saving.
I mean, I hope not. I really hope not. For the sake of Zekin's career, for the sake of getting,
I hope Zekin gets
Sassy and
voted
Pancada.
I genuinely, I would be down. John QT, what roles
Ten's
does he play?
contract ends this
Sentinel.
year, by the way.
Sentinel player?
Yeah, he's a Sentinel. Yeah,
I figured out the fix.
Sentinel IGL.
You drop either Pancada or Marv, move whatever one to smokes. I mean, Marv is already playing smokes if you want to keep
Yeah,
him.
we'll drop Marv.
And then you move Pancada to smokes if you drop Marv. And then you get John QT on the Sentinel role.
I mean, that could actually heal them.
And suddenly,
And
I
what
think
does Tens play?
Tens plays what he's been playing.
But he needs to learn Sky.
KO, like some crack ass motherfucker.
Not KO. I think he's not really suited to the primary duelist role as much, like the entry player role. But I think that his KO was quite good. I think that shows that he has.
But okay, wait.
As a flex
fix.
player, you need to play more than KO.
Give him some time, Josh.
He's a Euro, so he'll play Euro.
Tens has been playing at the top level of Valorant for years. What do you mean give him more time? He's been one of the first players to be given shots on massive rosters. And yes, he has not ever been on a team that has been very structured and very successful. And I think at this point, we might have a reason why.
No, I relate to Tens. Personally, me.
Yes, the first fucking pro Yoru KO player. That'll make sense.
He only plays the
listen.
blue agents.
I see a heavy parallels between Tens' pro play career and the environments that he's been in and the Gloucester education system. And I just think that he's been failed.
That's not a reason to keep him on the team.
I think he's been failed. Like, look at me. I'm quite successful. My education got fucking stunted because listen, the education system in the UK is not that good.
Okay.
I was failed to a certain degree. I feel a kindred spirit with Tens. Not that I'm a god gamer. Not that I can aim well, but I just think that he got failed by the structures and systems he was in.
You can empathize with him. I empathize with Tens too. But okay, here's how to fix the team. Tens, what did he do after the initial Sentinels roster failed? He wanted to be a content creator. He wanted to spend more time with like his partner and his family and take a step back. And he did that. And it seemed like he was living the dream. He had tons of stream viewers. Let him be a content creator again. Let Marv be a content creator again. Sign John QT. Sign Nismo. Healed. The roster is healed.
Okay, but I don't think 100 Thieves should make any changes.
Let's move on to that, because that was Bren's hot take, and that I think is just an insane hot take. And that is so spicy, it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, that's my hot take. I think
sell me on this one, Bren.
100 Thieves, the biggest problem that they had, I think, was lack of help in the coaching staff department, which they've only just got on board. And
Can't play
I think
half of the game. They can't attack.
I think, yeah. Well, okay, so a lot of the big problems. Let's talk about the most recent match, right? Where you had underperforming players like Derek. I think Derek has unfortunately been absolutely shafted by the shift in info initiator meta, where they have to play Harbor and Sky a lot of the time, and the Sky just doesn't look good. Aston has been the Sky player for this team. Maybe with a bit of time, he could do. I love Derek as a player. I'd love to see him still compete. I'd love to see him stay on this roster as well. But if you were going to make any change, it would probably be that, I think, in terms of just trying to pick up somebody else. But overall, I think that this team has always came so close that you just, I don't know, give him a bit of time.
So close to what? What did they get close to here? Being close to only being an embarrassment rather than a disappointment? What?
They're close to 10th in Americas.
Wins every now and then. I think within this team,
100 Thieves expects a roster that can win Americas, and I don't. Sure, this roster can be fine, and I think it will get better with time. But I don't know if you're going to have a world-beating America's winning roster with 100 Thieves in the current form. I just don't believe that.
But genuinely, where this derives from is I think that there's so much pressure on some of these players, and it gets compounded compounded even more when you're on a clout-based roster like Sentinels and 100
That's
Thieves.
being a pro
With the trash
player,
map. It
contending with
absolutely is,
pressure.
but I think it gets
Also,
worse with these rosters. So
100
imagine,
Thieves doesn't
imagine
even
how
have
well
that much clout.
They don't
Okay,
anymore.
But their fans are ruthless, man. And okay, if you're a pro player, you should not be reading any fucking comments on things. But the players do. They read shit about them online because they want the little serotonin dopamine boost. Everybody does it. Listen, everybody reads. If you're in a public facing role, they love to do it. You shouldn't do it, but because it's going to negatively affect you. If you see bad stuff, I'm getting distracted by the Karmine Corp game. I mean, this shit is just they're slipping. They're going back to.
Come on, keep it together. Keep it together. Keep it together.
Fred.
100 Thieves, genuinely, a large part of their problems, I think, derive from that. I think it would do them a lot of good if Daddy Nadeshot sat them down and said, listen, guys, I'm not gonna do what I'm not gonna.
But he's not gonna do that.
I'm not gonna.
He's
press
gonna
the big red
explode the
button.
roster.
I'm not gonna press the red button. I'm not gonna Oppenheimer you. I'm not gonna press the red button. I think it would do them a lot of good to take that pressure off their shoulders and actually build up the structure around this team. And it would help, I think, release them a little bit. Because when I watch them play, they're rigid, you know, sometimes they're lacking confidence. And I think one of the big things they had when Sean was a coach, like, I love Mike as a player. I think he's got a fantastic mind for the game and cooks up a lot of great ideas. But one of the biggest things we wanted 100 Thieves to do well and better was adaptability on the fly. Like being able to make really good decisions and actually play off of the information that they get in the moment and come up with good decisions themselves. And they've been trying to do that. They've been trying to lean into that. But when they had Sean,
And they've
Sean
been
was,
appalling at it.
they have been. But when they lost confidence these days, I feel like they don't get rallied back in the same way. With Sean, when what I noticed is that he always came in with a very like structured idea, like of what they need to do, which is bad because they weren't thinking for themselves. But it did get their confidence back up as well. I just think. Give them more time.
Okay,
give them more time.
let me.
But this
let me
This is
provide the
Zeta
counterpoint.
division.
But this doesn't go back to what I think is like the primary issue with their roster, which is just like their utter failure to play the attacking side and Cryo's style as a duelist not working to be the primary dive player. He is a player who is exceptional at opping and being like a contact player, playing Chamber or Jet on the defensive side where he can post up, he can slow down the game plan, and he can punish when people are hitting into him and pick and choose his fights. He's excellent at that. Don't get me wrong, Cryo's exceptionally talented. But I think the roster in its current form with Derek on Sky and with Cryo on Jet, it's just not working on their attacking sides. And it seems like they're really unable to take the risks and like find those opportunities to pick up opening kills, which has consistently punished them on the side map,
they're
even
so
going back to
risk-averse.
Americas. They had a month and a half. It didn't improve. Their defense
No,
improved. It got better. They had new nice ideas, but the fundamental issues with their attack side were still there, even if in a slightly different form.
They're too scared. I mean, I agree with your point, Bren, that they need that like confidence boost, but it has to come from a player. You can't rely on a coach to be the only person in there that's hyping you up. The coaches only get 2 opportunities to talk to them while the game is live.
But
You need
it's
like
not
a Zelsis. You need
it's a
someone who's going to
regular-
get like
coaching isn't just-
fined.
yeah.
Coaches
by
aren't defined by
God.
their impact in just in timeouts. It's a gradual thing that you're building alongside the whole time.
Absolutely. And so maybe you'd get some value out of trying to teach leadership skills to these people. But if they don't have the leadership qualities or are unwilling to develop them themselves, then it's not going to go anywhere. I think that this iteration of the roster is done. I mean, blow it the fuck up is my opinion. You need to. You need to. I know. I'm gonna try and provide the counterpoint here, right? My counterpoint is, I think Stella got empowered to do more mid rounding this year, and that was a clear goal that they had gone for, and it failed dramatically. He didn't have what it took, whether that be, him calling the timings or struggling to get the value out of Cryo and figure out how they wanted to be aggressive. They played passive, they played scared, and they weren't able to get any value on their attack sides. Way too timid, all of the players. And I think that has to indicate a change. They need someone different at the helm to get the whole ship redone. I think Derek's time has probably got to be over as well. I do agree with you that it seemed like he got a massive knock from playing the more like Sky-centric stuff in a somewhat similar way to Sassy. But also, even when Derek was playing Sova at the beginning of the year, he was way too scared to take fights and he wasn't shooting back.
I thought that changed.
His fragging has been not really.
I thought that changed as it got on.
No, I don't think so. I feel like Derek has just been very passive, not aggressive. I mean, the the whole system doesn't work. Like, think back to the Sentinels 100 Thieves game that we had on Bind, where Tens is just going into showers on his own.
Yeah.
And just separating them into 1v1s every time. I mean, the round that's going to spring to mind is Derek just hiding in the corner and then Bang not swinging to trade. It's not all Derek, but it's just a team issue that has gone the whole way through. They need
They
need like a fucking
slap
cow
on the
on
shoulder.
Z.
They need a slap on the shoulder and a banana. That's what they need in between maps. I'm telling you. They need somebody to bring out the bundle of bananas and say, come on, lads, listen. Remember what we did in that scrim that one time? Do you remember how we're the best players in the world? Let's fucking get it, lads. I don't think they need armchair analysis. I don't think they need that. They need confidence.
Too late for that.
They don't need that. We're not saying they need to listen to us. We're saying that they probably need a roster change.
You get confidence through ignorance. That's where you get confidence from.
No.
Seriously, this is one thing I've learned.
That's
is that
the Sentinels version of confidence.
The most confident people are the most ignorant people. That's what I've learned over my lifetime. When was I most confident in my casting? When I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So as I've learned more, it's like the fucking what is Oculum's Razor? Is that what it's called? With a fucking what is that?
That's not what it's called.
Occam's Razor, but that is also completely not what you're going for.
What is Occam's
I think what you're
Razor?
going for is what's it called? Where it's
The
easy
more
things.
you know about a thing. Like
No, I'm thinking about like when you're bad at something, you think that.
Yeah, you think you're.
What's it called?
The
Oh,
more
it's
that
like
you know
the graph
about a
of
thing,
when
the more
you're-
you realize you
it's the
don't
graph.
know anything about it.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
you're
People-
getting
God damn,
lazy.
what is that effect
spamming it in the
called?
chat, but I'm not looking at the chat, so I don't know. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it's
Like the graph where when you're
I know,
the
it's got a
dumbest at
specific
something,
thing,
you have
but
the most
that's-
confidence,
but
and
that's-
then
but that's boring to say that. Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah, that's the one. I'm not talking-
Dunning-Kruger,
It's
it is.
kind of
Thank
like
you.
that, but also it's more like a better analogy for it is like the eldritch horrors of the universe. Like the more you learn about it, the more insane you get.
What?
You know? And so
Right,
like
right.
the more you learn about the eldritch horrors of the universe and how insignificant you are, then the more insane you become. And so I think genuinely they just need a couple of knocks to the head. They need their confidence back through ignorance, some zug gameplay. They need to
you're
play.
saying-
How are they going to get their confidence back if they keep the same roster all throughout the off season and they don't get chances to play? They're not going to
Drastic
know that
change
they're
in
getting
ideology.
Play
played.
GTA. You do crew.
Drastic change
but
in
how
ideology.
who's the catalyst for that? Someone's just gonna listen to this and be like, damn, I'm gonna completely shift my worldview and my ideology towards Valorant, and
Well, it's a
we're gonna
gradual
suddenly be
thing.
good.
It would happen over many
Nature.
months. I
That's
think.
why people
This-
have roster moves, is to shake that
To
kind of
kickstart
shit.
something.
okay, but they-
Valorant
so
is a
move-
game that
move
doesn't
bang
have
onto a-
time.
I'll allow
like-
Move
one
back
roster.
onto a role where he
I'll
can
allow
take
one
more
change.
aggression.
I'll allow one change, and then the rest of the team needs to play in CDL for a season, and then they'll get the right mentality. I think.
These guys have got to get on BattleBit and get accused of cheating to boost
Yeah.
their confidence.
They do.
I don't think you can win this. I don't think you can win this. Sorry, win. I'm using the wrong word. I don't think you can fix this team with only one roster change. I think either Nature is actually scaling back all of his budget and he's given up on his dreams to win Valorant and he just tells everybody on 100 Thieves, Bren's right. I'm not cutting you guys, but you are going to take like a 50% salary decrease or something because you play like poo and we're going to become a budget team. And if you guys can make the playoffs, then we'll consider that a success. So either you go in that route where it looks very similar, but they're getting paid a lot less, and that fulfills some kind of like value proposition for the team, or if you're actually trying to win, no, this team needs shifts. Bang needs to be on a more aggressive component. Cryo needs to be taught how to entry properly. I feel like we're in the great fucking Valorant depression right now. I'm not sure whether you guys have realized,
I'm glad you're getting on this topic because you have set me off because I wanted to talk about this. But you go off, King. Go off. I'm
There
gonna
are
agree with you the
so
whole time.
many teams and players that don't know what they're doing currently.
It's
And it's
gotten
not
worse.
just It's not just because we're watching the LCQ teams right now, like Louder in a slump, Na'Vi a poo in the bed. Even the teams that are doing quite well are struggling all over the place. The teams that have massive names shitting the bed all over the place. Even the people that have been playing well on Chamber
There's
in the
shit
past,
on the
moving the
streets.
Jet, don't know how to entry. There's poo everywhere. It's looking like a Victorian England. People are throwing chamber pots out the window and I'm getting splashed.
I'm telling you, you're spitting. You're spitting right now. Well, yeah, I genuinely think that the chamber meta was good for the game because it just raised the skill ceiling, the ceiling in terms of knowledge of how people thought about the game and played the game to a degree. And then ever since then, we've had pretty like inconsistent people have been playing different compositions, and the level of play has just like the average. We've got Fnatic that are like, they're on a fucking pinnacle, but they're a super team.
EG.
So that's why.
An EG.
And then EG,
Paper
but
X.
they've like, they've come together, and then Paper X are playing their own game as well. But they've got, again, Paper X are actually the prime example. Alex needs to be imported, I think, as the big coach.
What
for
are
100
you
Thieves.
talking
Paper X is a
about?
prime example of why you make a change
Why
in a
would he leave
stagnating
when-
team,
yes,
and
yes,
you bring in
but
a crazy
change-
good player,
the
and all of a
change-
sudden you're
the
amazing
Paper X,
again.
Paper X are the fucking worst nightmare of the armchair analyst. They do not make sense as a team. They make confidence-based decisions. They play the game exactly how the fucking MOBA crowd hates it. Listen, there's a subsection of player base out there that thinks the game needs to be defined down to the fucking numbers, the analytics, pushing up my glasses. Oh, this lineup from this particular angle. Oh, this composition doesn't work in theory because this particular section of YouTube. You're gonna get shot in the face. You're gonna lose the round. It's a gun game. It's an FPS. If you
But
want
100
that,
Thieves isn't shooting
if you want
anyone.
that, play Overwatch. If you want that, play League of Legends. Play a different fucking game. This is Valorant, you motherfucker. You get shot, you die. You get shot, you die. You get shot, you lose the round. You lose the game. It's an FPS game.
Oh my god.
So is that why 100 Thieves should not make a roster change?
I think they just need a mentality shift. They just need a mentality shift. They just need to lead into that more. I swear to God.
Oh my
Fucking
god.
hell.
Right, well, we have like 4 minutes left. I want to do a final check-in with Giants Karmine Corp. Has anyone been keeping an eye on it?
Dude, I've been keeping an eye on it.
It's still going.
Wait,
Wait, it's still going. Bring it up, Kurt. Bring it
It's
up.
still going. The attack side of Karmine
How on
Corp.
earth did they bring it back?
Wait, it's still the same map.
The attack side of
All of
Karmine
these
Corp
maps, these teams
was
are all so
atrocious. They were losing rounds and they were going for the Sheriff half armor no util strat again.
No.
And they've had no utility the entire attack side. The only reason they brought this up is because they won the pistol round and didn't have to do the Sheriff half armor strat. And they've just had money to buy and play the game. Like, that's genuinely the reason they've managed to bring this back.
They have Phoenix up for retake. They're gonna fucking
think
take it
they're
to
taking this to
overtime.
OT unless they
it's
fuck
going
this
to
up.
OT.
Yeah, unless they fuck this up.
Do you have the link, Kurt, to bring the...
Hold on.
Hold
Hold on.
I mean,
We
we
gotta
have
watch
We've
this
been watching
ad.
ads for
We gotta
like
watch
30
this ad.
seconds here.
The game might be over. Oh, here it is. Here it
Here
is.
it is.
Oh my god. A Scream gets the...
Wait,
XMS.
he's got a reckoning.
No, Nookie's
Wait.
good for this.
Oh,
We just tuned in to watch the...
Nookie's good for it.
That's really
Oh,
funny.
incredible. Incredible. Okay.
Vegas.
Oh my
That's a
god.
good ending. This was a good episode.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
let's-
LCQ has just ruined me. Absolutely ruined me. The off season is going to ruin me even further as well. Because there's like anyway, whatever. We'll get into that another time. It's time for the final segment before we release everybody. It's Wyatt's weekly award.
Damn, I love video games.
Me too.
He's
Wyatt.
playing a
Me
shooter.
too.
Was there
He's playing
supposed
a
to be a
shooter.
game overlaid on it? Or
There
is that
was.
for the people
He was
to
playing
do?
the game.
Yeah,
that's-
that was the game.
That's for the
He was
other people to do.
flashbang.
Like when the meme format of me just looking at the telestrator. You can just add whatever you like in there. I think there's a lot of good candidates actually for Wyatt's Weekly Award this week. I've gone for a player that I think has turned things around massively from the regular season to LCQ, and somebody that was probably overlooked a little bit and a bit underrated. Didn't just play poorly, but was playing all right, but with bad stats, and has now become a genuinely really good player in LCQ, and that's Davies for Crew. I feel like there's a lot of people on Crew that have really turned things around. Nags and Klaus in
Wait,
particular.
Davies' name isn't Dave. His name is Santiago Galvez Ruiz.
Have you just been calling him Dave the whole
Well, that's
time?
weird.
No, but I feel like his name should be Dave if his name is Davies. Because it's
Not
like
that
Dave.
weird. It's like when there's a lot of like
But his
Asian
name should
players
be
that they
Dave.
name themselves like John.
But he
Did you
should
know
like
that Douglas Appa's name is not Douglas?
Yeah, that we
What?
made that up.
what?
Did
There's
you
no
know
way.
CNED's name is not Charles Neddington? Did you know that?
But it's Charles Ned, right?
Yeah, it's Charles Ned.
Okay,
Anyway, I've given it to Davies here. I really feel like he's turned his season around. He's part of the reason that his team's doing so incredibly well. I think he's the second highest rated player by the VLR ratings in LCQ currently. And that's reflected in terms of the performance that he's having within the game. Oh, third highest. There you go. Yeah, King did have a masterclass performance. But he's been excellent. The Killjoy's been working really well. They've got him on more of a Sentinel role, which has actually freed up Nags to do a little more too. So, you know, his increased, or rather his specificity, because he was playing like 7 different agents or something during the regular season. He's kind of honed it in a bit more now, and it's helped him, and it's helped the rest of the team perform too. So credit to Davies. He's playing very well and helping his team pop off on an insane run that he hasn't had the opportunity to do before. He's not one of those crew players that remembers going on a run of champions and remembers that kind of run of form. He's making his own history here with the same organization. So pop off king, but not King,
Nice.
Davies.
That's a good Wise Weekly award. I can't.
Good award.
Yeah.
Shout out to
And I'll give
not
it-
Dave.
And we might end up giving next week's to like one of the Koi players or something if they go on a similar run, because I can smell it in the water. I can smell it.
Oh, dude, the battle bit. The
Battle
battle win montage. They've got
Okay.
Casey Standing accused of cheating.
This game is so fun, by the way. Great game.
I haven't played
What
it.
the hell? Let's end the show
It's like
before we start a
Battlefield,
battle
but
bit.
it's
We're
like
gonna
it
end
has
the
like the mechanics of like Roblox Phantom Forces, which is the current best FPS game in the world. So this is
Right,
the second best.
Mimi, it's
Mimi's
literally
young.
you that
Mimi's
needs to
young.
leave,
Yeah, I
and
do
you're
have to
popping off
go.
about Battle Pit.
I do have to go.
So let's wrap up episode 140. TMV, thank you very much for dropping by.
problem.
Sorry
Thank
for
you.
pulling you away from your co-streaming. It does seem like the Karmine Corp game would have broken your brain into pieces.
Oh, yesterday I was going crazy with how long every game was. I lost my mind.
Oh, you missed the
These
fake
games.
comeback.
These teams
so-
refuse to close out games. Pacific are on TMV timeout. I'm not watching another Pacific game ever. End the show.
Well, yeah, we're going to end the show. We'll be doing some co-streaming and stuff, and then we'll be back for more of the LCQ. We'll have another episode next week as well. We'll be wrapping things up and talking about champions previews and that kind of thing, because there isn't too much time left. We'll catch you for episode 141. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you then.
Bye.